The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and/or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Valley, hooey Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good. Where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you, my pretties, are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And here's your... There it is. There it is. There, perfect. I've got the angle.
A little further down. It looks like you're pointing at me.
Ladies and gentlemen, the host of these theater proceedings, our dear leader, has a special message for you. And that message is as follows. He gave this to me to read, and I will read it to the people from Dear Leader. Your pirate ship can eat a bag of dicks. Your pirate ship can eat a giant bag of dicks. Your shitty wee boat is a fucking joke. It's just the unwanted leftovers of a jobby tugging barge. Your pirate ship can eat a bag of dicks. Your pirate ship can eat a giant bag of dicks. You better give us all your money in your treasure chest, or Alexis Hejna is going to take a shit on your fucking lawn. And with that special message from Dear Leader Red, ladies and gentlemen, here is Dear Leader himself, Robert Winfree.
Not your best work, Mark. I throw that out there.
I am so lost right now.
He's quoting Ailstorm lyrics.
Yeah, I got them on my brain.
A bit of serendipity, however. I am wearing technically a pirate shirt as you read this.
See, it all comes together.
This is my... If I can mirror this properly. Yeah, this is my the beatings will continue until morale improves shirt.
That is a quality saying right there. Hey,
I tend to like it.
You know, Alexis already did it. Zachary enjoys my tomfoolery. So, you know, he says that I have the heart of a poet. He's not wrong.
But it wasn't you who wrote it.
What you have are the fingers of a plagiarist. That's not even transformative. Like, that's just plagiarism.
It's been on my brain since last night and all day today, and I felt the need to share it with the world as a way of introducing our dear leader, Robert Winfree. And what are we doing tonight, Toots?
Well, when you said dear leader, I went, wait a minute, why are you talking in the third person? We all know who cracks the whip. And,
where there's a whip. Hey, David, where there's a whip, there's a way. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I don't want to go to war today, but the Lord of the Lash says nay, nay, nay.
The Radulich Broadcasting Network saying,
we're going to march all day, all day, all day.
Mark's making me watch The Idol.
Yeah, I am.
And after
He's
that,
making me watch The Blackening.
After that, I will raise you all the double bird and walk off into the sunset. I'm fairly sure. Anyway, tonight...
Pants down as you waddle away.
Going off to live deliberately?
Going off to do something deliberately. Living is kind of a question mark. Anyway, tonight, everybody, we're talking about, yay, Marvel's back, sort of.
And better than ever.
Well, better since No Way Home, but I think we all agreed that's the lowest hurdle in the world right now.
Yeah. You should introduce the other two people speaking on the podcast, by the way.
So I will. So we are talking about...
You already introduced me. You said I was going to shit somewhere.
That's
on the lawn. But that's only... But that's only if you don't give us all the money in your treasure chest.
Anyway, Alexis Hejna is with us per mostly usual. How you doing, Alexis?
Doing good. Spent the whole day driving from Indianapolis. Happy to be back in my home. Happy to not have to talk like I'm in a wind tunnel this time. Those of you who listened to the Peter Pan and Wendy review, I apologize.
Well, you knew when Alexis was about to talk, by the way, because Robert and I are talking normal, and suddenly you hear, and another thing about this stupid movie. Like, oh fuck, there's Alexis.
What? At least I muted it when I wasn't talking, so you didn't have to hear the wind tunnel the whole time. Side note: it's not my fault. My Honda Civic is not soundproof.
Actually, it was a really good way of making sure everybody shut up and let you speak.
Yeah,
It was a nice.
You would telegraph every time you were about to talk, and Robert and I would just go, "Oh, here comes Alexis," gangway.
Yeah, it's like, we might be onto something here.
Oh, trust me, I think if I make a habit out of this, Mark's gonna kill me on principle.
Also here, our resident Marvel apologist, David Wright.
I try and bring a balanced opinion to things, as all things should be.
And we appreciate it.
Thank you, Thanos.
Iron Man did the entire MCU dirty when he killed Thanos, just saying it out loud. Like, it's all been downhill since then.
So Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is a 2023 American superhero film based on Marvel Comics superheroes
wiki.
team Guardians of the Galaxy, produced by Marvel Studios and distributed by Walt Disney Motion Pictures, formerly a movie studio. It is the final
current dumpster fire.
Currently slave drivers, if you read their tweets about the writer's strike.
Yeah, it is the final installment of the Guardians of the Galaxy film trilogy, the sequel to Guardians of the Galaxy 2014 and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and the 32nd, good God, film in the Marvel Cinematic discrepancy. The film was written and directed by James Gunn and features an ensemble cast, including but not limited to Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldaña, Dave Bautista, Karen Gillan, Pom Klementieff, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, Will Poulter, shut up, Sean Gunn, Chuck Norris, Linda Cardellini, Nathan Fillion, and Sylvester Stallone. In the film, the Guardians embark on a mission to protect Rocket Raccoon from the High Evolutionary. All right, so where do we even want to begin here for TikTok purposes before we get into this?
How about the fact that it's become abundantly clear that brief firing that Kevin Feige authorized of James Gunn will officially become, in the eyes of the Disney studio, horrible mistake number 1.
You think so?
Yeah.
It wasn't number 1.
But I don't have time to count the horrible mistakes they've made previously.
That might be the biggest one, certainly the biggest one recently.
It was
But
definitely the wrong
in
call.
the eyes of DC and Warner Brothers, the greatest thing that ever happened to them.
I mean, look, we're going to talk about the James Gunn thing for a few minutes. That's fine. Let's break this down. Number one, let me go back and say that when James Gunn got fired briefly from Marvel and they went, and fired him right back again, he was like canceled and uncanceled in like 24 hours.
24-hour cancellations, they're going around.
Yeah, it was enough time for him to go make the Suicide Squad.
We
did it.
We looked like it was shot in a weekend.
Hey, I love that movie. That's my favorite DC film right now.
You were the only one that saw it. No, it didn't make a lot of money. Anyway,
day and date.
We did a podcast on for the brief period that Ronnie was doing podcasts on what I told him to talk about. We did a whole thing on James Gunn, and we called it The Day Laughter Died. And there was a long form discussion about like cancel culture, and the whole thing was there was this cottage industry of people that were dedicated to opposition research, essentially, but the kind of thing that you would do on your opposing candidate, but they were doing it to celebrities they didn't like. And so they dug into James Gunn's like old tweets, and it's funny, the evolution of Twitter, because it was clearly one of those things that people didn't know what they had when they had it. So they were like, oh, fire burns. It certainly does, Ollie. Like, people are on Twitter and just like, there's no harm of the kind of jokes that I would make amongst my friends that never got me into trouble before, and make those jokes on Twitter. 10 years later, some dork, who's told take down said celebrity, find said tweets, and goes, look, he's a racist. Look, he's a homophobe. Look, he hates women. Look, he said something unkind about a gal's vagina. And suddenly you lose your job. And there was this, Robert, and you and I have talked about this. There was this brief
Such
moment
is the insanity of the world.
Well, there was this brief moment in time where the celebrities were acting like Jews during the Holocaust. We're like, oh God, we're beset on all sides. Everyone's coming after us, and it was like the least.
Quick, everyone get together and let's sing a Beatles song via compilation.
It was the least sympathetic cry for help anyone had ever heard. Oh no, celebrities are being yelled at by neckbeards on Twitter.
You're not wrong, Mark, but weren't the guys who dug him up, didn't they do it because Gunn said some pretty horrible shit about Trump? I distinctly remember this was a couple of months.
Yeah, I do believe it was. They didn't like his politics, so they found something in his Twitter history and used it to get him fired from his job, which is a bipartisan method, by the way.
Yeah, like that's that's an equal opportunity weapon that people are throwing around. It's
right. I did say this is the sort of thing you would do for your opposition research to the opposing candidate. At no point did I say it was one-sided. But so I'll open it back up to you guys, just because I think it's worth talking about for just a few minutes. Like, I think that's died down somewhat. We haven't had like a rash of cancellations as of late that I'm aware of. Almost as if like it got old in a hurry, and the sensitivity to fire someone for something they said over 10 years ago, these people just lost their taste for it. It blew up really quickly and then just as quickly kind of died down again, but not after everyone cried about it.
I think two things. I think one, everyone realized what a mutually assured destruction button that is.
Yeah.
Like that's
suddenly everyone's going, shit, what did I say about
everybody started thinking about what they said on the internet, and suddenly how about we just leave this one alone?
Suddenly everyone's in a Mexican standoff going, how about we just put the guns away and walk away from this? How about that?
I have heard stories of like a journalist will write a story about this person said something horrible on Twitter, and then that person gets canceled, and then someone looks through the Twitter history of the journalist and finds something they said on Twitter, and the journalist loses their job, and it's just
usually identical.
Like, yeah, and
it just keeps going back and forth and back and forth.
It's like the TikTok of you wrote me into this. Well, you wrote me into this. Well, he wrote me into this, and it's all like journalists. And it's all people cancel now.
Yeah, you can never predict what will upset or offend people, and in the future. So it's just like maybe just realize that people change over time, and usually when people are young, we're dumb and say stupid things.
Yeah, that's kind of been the motif of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network for over 10 years now. We're dumb. And
you guys have made sure that I am never going to be able to run for public office,
dude. That I got through 2 podcasts with Mark and realized, if I ever at any point considered that, we're just done now.
Yeah, I've ruined a lot of people's lives. Speaking of ruining people's lives, I think Alexis, you would like us to move on to what firing James Gunn then produced. Now, you talked about the Suicide Squad, and the Suicide Squad, as much as I joked about it, was the unfortunate victim of like the post-COVID. Can we say COVID anymore? I don't remember.
Sure.
The post-COVID day and date thing, where at the time that the Suicide Squad came out, it was in that year of day and date on HBO Max, but also I think like the Omicron virus, the Omicron variant was going on.
It came out at a time when most places were still closed.
It came out August 2021. I know because it came out the weekend I was in Disney World.
Right. So we're talking like the beginning of August here. And, because I was talking to Melissa about like the Marvel movies. Like, oh my God, the Guardians of the Galaxy is the best one, has done the best financially yet. And it's like, yes, let's start with Black Widow and trace the history of failure over the last few years.
Red, black for No Way Home. Red.
Right.
It's a sad like the Disney executive Trail of Tears will be a historical event.
If you were betting on, again, people are in the year of 2021 when Suicide Squad came out, the Suicide Squad came out, no one could have predicted that in August we were going to have had to deal with yet another variant, more COVID, and people just not wanting to go to the movies. And when you had the option of watching it on your TV for free, for the cost of fucking HBO Max, now Max,
whatever that is. Yeah.
I refuse to call it Max. I'm sorry. That is so. I'm sorry. That just screams late 80s, early 90s. The name just makes me feel like, oh, okay, I'm in Saved by the Bell now, right?
Right. But I think we were pretty favorable on the Suicide Squad. It was certainly a step up from Suicide Squad. I think James Gunn did a remarkable job with it, and then just as quickly he got his job back to finish up Guardians of the Galaxy. And I'll kick this around to you guys, and then we can get into the plot synopsis. I'm going to pick at you a little bit, Alexis. You're looking at Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and the first two, and you're looking at the Suicide Squad, and you're thinking, oh yeah, James Gunn, he's got DC well in hand. I'm a little skeptical, not to say that I think he'll do a bad job necessarily. I don't know, and I think that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not convinced until I start to see what comes out of his shop that he's gonna be DC's savior, only because I'm not entirely sure anyone can save DC right now. Like individual movies may be okay, but it's kind of like where Disney is in terms, with their family entertainment, where they just kind of lost the audience, and now the audience may not come back for years and years and years because they don't trust it. What say you?
Well, it's a hell of a lot better than leaving it in Zack Snyder's hands, especially after the stuff that he revealed he wanted to do with his future movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I didn't catch if anyone else discussed this in the network chat, but you did see his post about how he was going to reveal that the Amazons were Kryptonians, right?
So? No, I genuinely mean that. Like, my reverence for the source material around this is non-existent. I don't care if you change it.
I mean, look, there are people in our amongst our friends in a group chat that if you change anything that's canonically, from the source material, they go out of their minds.
I'm not against changes to the source material. I just think that change is stupid.
What about you? Just so we can start to close this up, David. Do you think that James Gunn, with his, Guardians movies and the Suicide Squad, do you think he'll be the guy that pulls the DC plane out of the nosedive?
He's certainly got the skills to make a good product, and he seems to be getting enough support from the studio to be able to do that. But yeah, I agree. Your biggest question is this just kind of bad timing? Like they missed their chance by going with Zack Snyder until sort of the superhero genre is stagnating, and will he be able to right the ship enough? I mean, he's kind of in the Terry Metalis position of doing Picard season 3 plug, where they kind of burned the first 2 seasons so bad everybody went away, and then he gets it and he actually makes something good out of it. Will that be enough? Will people be who are like how many times bitten now?
Yeah.
Right.
And of course,
I just like that they finally brought someone in who's going to lead the DC in an actual direction.
Yeah.
A lot of people complain, and I am with them, that one of the problems with the DCEU, as it's called, is that they essentially said, okay, so what's the game plan? We want to do what Marvel did. Okay, but we actually need to lay things out. No, just do what Marvel did. Yeah. And the previous movies have had no direction. There's been no real sense of what is this building towards.
A little ways back, Robert and I on our Black Adam review, and I remember this because I pulled the clip for TikTok. We talked about that DC on film has now changed directions so many times, no one could make heads or tails of it if they fucking tried. It kind of looks like somebody tried different football plays on a whiteboard and just never erased the previous ones. It's a bunch of squiggly lines in a bunch of different directions. And I've talked about this before. It is one thing for us neckbeards and nerds to be able to decipher the code to these movies and go, well, this is this, and and then you explain it to somebody who doesn't watch these things and watch them glaze over.
The only other thing I would throw out there is like we are in the internet film criticism bubble, right? Especially for nerd cinema. So what we all think is going to happen, like most people probably don't follow,
right? That's what I was
who's running what. Or like remember the 10 wonderful years that everyone spent saying who cares about Avatar and who would dare go see an Avatar sequel, and despite all that, and despite Alexis's opinions, love you, Alexis.
I love you too.
Thank you. Yeah. It
Don't
went,
just
and it
because
just,
her. Robert and I thought that movie was going to bomb, and we couldn't have been more wrong.
I know. It's just whenever we mention Avatar, Alexis obligatory mentions that she does not like Avatar, which I respect, but
No,
over
but
25 million people disagree.
And that's the reason I always joke I hate it. It's like if it had just been like a mediocre reception, I would have been like, yeah, it's a mediocre movie. My problem is all the people who go to see it multiple times. It's I feel like Will Ferrell at that scene in Zoolander. It's like, do you people not notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of used to most people, whatever I like, not being the big popular thing in the world. So But like I say, like all of the in the know nerd geek culture YouTubers are all about Avatar. That's nobody cares about that anymore. The general public who don't care anything about what these people have to say, we're just like, Avatar, yes, more please, when we'll go see it multiple times. And $2.5 billion later, everyone's very quiet all of a sudden.
Same thing with Mario. With Mario Brothers, with the film community, it's just like, this is a piece of garbage. Save your fucking money. And then $1 billion later, it's like, well, none of us know what these people want anymore.
I mean, look, those of us with a modicum of awareness looked at Mario and went, recognizable IP, trusted studio,
right?
Decent enough name recognition for the cast. This is probably going to be fine as long as they don't make a terrible movie.
Right.
Yeah, massive IP.
Yeah. They had,
as long as they don't screw it up, it's going to make $1 billion.
Right. So Robert,
and guess what? They didn't screw it up.
So Robert, I know you don't care, but if you could turn that page and weigh in on yay or nay, do you think? I want to ask you a slightly different question than I got from Alexis and David. Do you think that if James Gunn can if out of James Gunn's shop, 2, 3, 4 successively well-made, well-received, moderately financially successful pictures come out of there, it's going to be like a Clinton thing. Suddenly DC's back and James Gunn's going to get the credit for it. Do you see that as a possibility?
I think it's possible. There's part of the problem and part of the alchemy that went into Marvel kind of blowing up when it did was you had, I don't know what the appropriate analogy here is. You had kind of an office manager.
Yeah.
You had someone who was there who kind of just made sure the machinery kept turning. And as long as you had the right people in the cubicles and you have an office manager who's competent, you turned out stuff that people were happy with. The MCU is not some bastion of creativity. I'm not saying it's bad. I enjoy plenty of those movies, contrary to what gets said here frequently. There's a lot of them I enjoy.
We do tend to take up most of the positivity and leave you for the criticism.
It's all right. I understand my job.
He plays shortstop. Not everyone can play that position. Not everyone wants to play that position, and he is willing to take the ball bounces to the face.
Yeah, and DC has never had that, and I'm not entirely sure you can even get that, because I wonder when we look back on this, 10, 15 years from now, what kind of what we think of the MCU. Like, where does it continue for that long? I kind of doubt it. Not in its current form. Like, we still have superhero movies.
Sure.
Because you can make good movies out of that. But the interconnected, multiple releases a year, cohesive, more or less cohesive storytelling building to these big punctuated moments, I kind of wonder if that wasn't lightning in a bottle on a larger time scale. I don't know how much they can replicate that.
Let me go ahead and counter that, and I don't want to drag this out too much longer, but let me go ahead and counter that. I think people will always respond to good storytelling. The problem, I think, right now is there's not a lot of willingness to commit to that kind of storytelling.
Well, here's
Let me say this. There's a lot of holes in a lot of ships. And when I say that, I mean, these studios are not doing great. These studios are struggling. And I'm talking about on a macro level. They are still trying to figure out the marketplace that is rapidly changing and rapidly kind of losing faith in the in-theater experience. We've said it a zillion times. I don't need to say it again. But when you're when you're Universal and you're in the business of making theatrical exhibitions, and you're looking at a marketplace that is dwindling by the moment.
You pray that Tom Cruise doesn't break a hip.
Yeah. More and more people are not wanting to go to the theaters to see things. And then, okay, so everything's going to be in home. Well, how do we make money with this? Because there's not a lot of money to be made that way. And so there's not an appetite. That's what I was looking for. There's not a tremendous amount of appetite for the kind of long-term. When Kevin Feige sat down with Marvel, and after like Iron Man and maybe one or two more of these were hits, and they were like, okay, well, what's your long-term plan with this? You're just going to keep making these goofy movies? Like, no, we're actually telling this really big story here, and it's going to be in these chapters and phases, and this is where it's going to end, more or less. He had a roadmap, and they asked him about it, and they were like, this is our plan. They're like, okay, we're committed to this, and if some of these don't make money, that's fine. We're going to stay the course. That's ballsy, and it's also like not the norm. Right now, they're in the no. We're not interested. I hate to say this because Alexis is going to fall out of her chair and David might, roll his eyes or whatever. But it's that line from The Wire about we're not going to fix the fucking institution overnight. It's a super tanker. It's going to take a while to turn around, and there's a lot that goes into fixing this. Nobody has the patience or the appetite for that. They just want quick fixes. They need to make money now. So I go back to
so again, we run our VFX team into the ground. We
Right.
scrapbook the movie by shooting. We shoot 5 versions of the movie, and then in editing, we kind of cobble together something that loosely makes a coherent story. And it feels bad, and the poor actors are constantly doing reshoots and pickups. And the VFX squadron is like kept alive by being hooked up to liquid meth. Like,
So
you don't sleep.
So you just described what's currently going on with the new Indiana Jones movie.
Yes.
Among other things, look, people haven't been shy about what a disaster the production for Ant-Man was either. Like, this is not unique.
I want to draw a different comparison. I don't know if you guys have seen Air yet, but there was a discussion.
It comes out later this month on just free on Prime. That's when I'll watch it.
Yeah. So there's a scene. I'm going to end with this because unless there was some other brilliant thing you were going to say, Robert, we can just go into the plot synopsis.
Yeah, I think we're supposed to be reviewing a movie in this podcast.
We'll get there. I have to do my stuff for TikTok. The new medium I'm pushing.
Mark has to do his art sometimes, and we all just have to kind of go along with it.
That's right. Get naked and let me paint you. Now listen.
No.
There's a scene in Air where Jordan, through his mother, Viola Davis, says to Matt, I think it's Matt Damon, like, yeah, he wants a piece of every shoe that we sell with his name on it. And they're like, well, no. You give us your name and we give you a check. That's how this works. And they're like, nope. every shoe. And Matt Damon goes to Ben Affleck, who is the CEO of Nike, and he was like, this is what they want. And they both have a tacit recognition this is fundamentally going to change the marketplace forever. This is huge. If we do this, we are making history. Maybe not for the better. This might kill the shoe industry for all we know. But, money, life is nothing without big chances, big swings. And so Ben Affleck kind of takes a deep breath and goes, fuck it, give it to him. This is either going to work really, really well or we're going to go out of business. And that's ballsy. That's the American spirit. Also, not a lot of people in places of leadership right now in the film industry willing to take that kind of ballsy Air Jordan chance. So how I round that back to James Gunn is, unless he's got somebody at Warner Brothers Discovery Pornhub that's going to stand behind him and say, go do your thing, we're getting out of your way and we're committed to you, win, lose, or draw, I think it's going to be a middling success at best.
I think the last thing I want to say about this is a little bit the decline of Marvel, but this is a general industry-wide problem, I think, for the movie business. especially the bigger studios. Again, that's Disney, that's Paramount, that's Universal, like the big ones. You have a lot of executive producers who have started to believe they have creative power.
That's always been a thing.
It always has, but it's gotten worse. Is
Mhm.
kind of the point. I mean, for crying out loud, in this movie, they put Kevin Feige's name before the directors. This is like in the credits. It's
Mhm.
Guardians Volume 3, a Kevin Feige production, a James Gunn film. Like, it's getting worse, and if Feige were that creative, he wouldn't be in his job. He'd be doing something creative, and again, that's an industry-wide thing. There's a lot of people who have been in that position for a long time who have been adjacent enough to creative talent that they believe they've kind of osmotically developed some, and that's not how that works.
All right, so tell us about this movie that was a Kevin Feige production and a James Gunn film.
They did the same thing with Multiverse of Madness. You actually had Kevin Feige's name before Sam Raimi's. So
30 minutes into this discussion, maybe we should actually talk about the movie.
So
just pointing
Loki.
it out. So Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 opens with a flashback to Baby Rocket as he and his litter, all the baby raccoons. He's in a cage, and in comes the High Evolutionary, who will perform terrible, terrible things on this poor, helpless baby raccoon. And don't you feel bad? Flashing forward, we get to what the Guardians have been up to. They have been establishing Nowhere, the city of the head of the dead Celestial. They're trying to turn it into a functioning city, not just a den of thieves, a hive of scum and villainy. We want this to be a good place.
For the record, if you watch the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, they actually did show that. So there's a few plot points that carry over from that. David, you and I were part of the team that reviewed that over the holidays. Plug.
So all is going more or less well. Peter Quill is an alcoholic now because he isn't over Gamora coming back, but not really coming back, but a different Gamora, and he just doesn't know what's up. Rocket started getting into music. He has stolen Peter's Zune. And all of this happy paradisiacal building of this location. We will build the Utopia. Market will be in the head of this dead Celestial. This is all ruined. All of this is ruined by Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock shows up and he is trying to kidnap Rocket, and he gets into a fight and he shoots Rocket and he destroys Groot, leaves nothing but a head, which then regenerates very quickly.
Tell me someone else saw that and thought, well, James Gunn's clearly a fan of The Thing.
A little bit. That definitely was there. Eventually, Nebula stabs Adam Warlock through the back and he goes, "Ow, that actually hurts," and then runs away. But Rocket has been injured and they're trying to help him, but their magical med packs don't work on him. In fact, they trigger something on his heart that tries to kill him. And they look at Rocket and go, "Well, what are we going to do?" And Nebula plugs into his USB port and kind of looks at through all of his cybernetic information and goes, "Yeah, there's a thing here that will kill him if someone other than the people who have copyrighted and created Rocket, because he is proprietary property." He's an IP, Mark, and we know IP.
Mm-hmm.
They find a location where this company exists, and they're going to go find the giant access code that will bypass the kill switch on Rocket. They have 48 hours to do this because we need a ticking clock. So they fly to this giant organic doohickey. They find Nathan Fillion. They break in. There's an action scene. They run into Gamora. They find Gamora along the way because she's hooked up with the Ravagers. She's one of them, and there's a lot of angst between her and Peter. Because Peter's like, "Don't you understand? You used to be good." And she's like, "No, I literally didn't. They plucked me out of a timeline where I was still working with Thanos, willingly. Like, no, I never did any of that. I mean, you don't remember it. It literally never happened. I'm not an amnesiac." Anyway, they break in. They get a file. Turns out that's not actually what they need. They need something that has now been erased. It exists in the head of one of the High Evolutionary's goons. And throughout this, we're getting flashbacks to Rocket's past, where he was torn apart, remade, given sentience, given, the physical enhancements, the cybernetic enhancements, and his friends that he met while he was in this horrible facility. There was an otter. There was like a miniature walrus.
I think it was just supposed to be like a young walrus.
Because that was a small walrus. And a rabbit, and they all become friends in their captivity, and this is how he gets his name. And again, there's a lot of flashbacks there. And we meet the High Evolutionary, who is our villain, and his goal is to create the utopia. He wants the perfect society. And he is struggling with this, and he started small, and he's been building things and trying to artificially engineer it.
And he has no qualms about completely erasing any mistakes violently.
Well, why would you? You really don't want to. Herbert West taught us what happens when you don't appropriately deal with your mistakes in that respect. So I get it. Rocket helps him along the way. He looks at one of his processes and goes, "That's wrong. Here's your problem." And then the High Evolutionary goes, "How did you know?" Because it worked. You were right. You fixed the problem. But I made you, and if I couldn't figure it out, how could you figure it out? And yeah. Rocket eventually escapes, because of course he does, but all his friends tragically die along the way. Anyway, in the more current timeline, they all head to Counter Earth, which is the High Evolutionary's world. It looks a lot like Earth. And they all land there, and they try to go find this actuary who's got the computer in his head.
I'm sorry. Did you have a moment where they land? You see some in the trailer, so it shouldn't have been too much of a shock. But I kept thinking, like, oh look, they landed on the planet BoJack Horseman's from.
Look, the true crime of the High Evolutionary is that he's a furry.
I was gonna say, I was the one in the audience go, it's like, oh, the furries are gonna have a field day with this. We are gonna see so many cosplays next year.
I advise you to avoid certain sections of the internet in the wake of this. Anyway,
or if that's your kink,
It's like, just remember, there is still DeviantArt.
Sort of. I could yell about that, but that'll take time. Anyway, they arrive at something approximating like a late 70s, early 80s time period for this group, because that's the aesthetic going on. Star-Lord gets our one F-bomb, I believe the first in the history of the MCU. It
was, but it was hilarious.
And they drive to where the High Evolutionary is on this planet. They drive through downtown Baltimore, basically, and look around going, this is the utopia?
We get to see a dude with an octopus for a head selling, I think they said it was meth.
Yeah. They were definitely down in the hole.
Yes, they were. And as they drive past the Baltimore Police Department doing nothing, and there on the corner, we do see Avon Barksdale going, "How'd I get here?"
Idris Elba, they cut to Idris Elba in a mid-built high-rise being shot to pieces, going, "Get on with it, motherfuckers." That was the second F-bomb in the Marvel Universe.
That was your second Wire reference in one show.
This is actually what happened to what's-his-face, who took over for Avon, the deeply unsatisfying drug kingpin. He got...
He talking about... Oh, God, no, I can't remember his name. Please.
Nobody can. Anyway, he got...
We are not talking about the Wire. Move it along.
He was abducted by Ravagers, much like Peter Quill, and dropped off here. Anyway, they arrived to talk with the High Evolutionary.
After getting to a fight on the street going, "My name is my name." And then, whoop, off he went.
This is all your fault, Robert.
It is. I apologize for nothing in this case.
You never apologize for anything.
That's not true.
If we keep interrupting him, we're going to be here till midnight.
Anyway, they arrive at the High Evolutionary's ship. He starts taking off. They attack Peter, grabs this low-level computer-headed guy, dives off of the... We're into the final stretch here, so there's just action sequences after missed opportunities to talk with each other.
You missed the part where the High Evolutionary says, "Yeah, you know what? You're right. This isn't that great." And the planet goes boom.
He does. He blows up the planet. See, Peter confronts him about, the perfect society doesn't have meth. And he goes, "You're right. I'm going to be destroying all this and starting over. That's all I can do at this point. It's gone too far. Nothing else I can do." So They get the computer. He blows up the planet. We get to our big space fight as Gamora goes, what kind of monster destroys a civilization? And everybody and their dog goes, you literally worked for Thanos 5 minutes ago.
It only destroys half of civilizations.
Usually.
All of the civilizations, but half of all of them. The civilizations are all still intact.
I imagine there's a few he just wiped out wholesale. Like, you got to look at some of them and just go, you know what? This is not worth it. So our big final action set piece is nowhere. The entire head has now become ambulatory through space. So they propel it over. They shoot. We get a big action sequence. Rocket is saved after nearly dying. We get our big slow-mo one-take fight scene through a hallway to the sound of Sabotage by the Beastie Boys.
That
For
was
those of you who want to
awesome.
hear Robert and Mark talk about the Beastie Boys, please go and look at our Star Trek Kelvin timeline retrospective. About 40 minutes in, there's a 20-minute talk of them, and that will contain everything in this discussion.
Nobody cares about that. Go on my TikTok at Mark Radulich and look at the TikTok where that's labeled. There's only one Beastie Boys song. That tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, Sabotage.
Yep.
So they fight through. Rocket helps them fight through. The High Evolutionary's crew tries to revolt against him, but he is super powerful. He controls gravity through the power of technology.
I thought it was like an energy burst kind of thing.
I don't know. He said gravity. That's kind of why I went with
He's
that.
got a super suit that shoots
Yeah.
purple stuff that does things.
He has the
Magic.
force. Move on.
So he wipes out most of his support staff. He's losing the battle with all the people coming from nowhere. They rescue all the kids because he was about to start over with his new society. The entire impetus here. Oh, Adam Warlock is still here, but his mother's died now, so he's all sad.
But he's got a cute little fluffy alien with him that he's bonded with.
Sure. Warlock is here. They should have left him to die, but they didn't because Groot decides everyone deserves a second chance.
To be fair, half of the Guardians of the Galaxy are people that have tried to kill the remainder of the Guardians of the
That's
Galaxy.
very true. Like,
Yeah, that's apparently like the audition to get into the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Have we tried to kill each other?
Yes, Nebula. It took Nebula 5 tries to get in.
True. Waitlist is it's not an easy wait list.
They're so close.
The High Evolutionary and Rocket fight. The rest of the Guardians show up. They kill the High Evolutionary.
No, they don't. They just let him die on the
They
ship.
let it. Whatever. Their actions immediately lead to his death.
Closed casket clause.
Definitely. The High Evolutionary have been trying to get Rocket back because Rocket's brain is the only one in all the time he's been doing this that actually had a degree of creativity and invention, and everyone else is just kind of like regurgitating stuff rather than having like the spark of interest. So he wants to study his brain because of course he does. Anyway, the High Evolutionary is left to die as the ship blows up. Everyone tries to escape. Quill goes back for his Zune. He gets stuck in space. And in our fourth fake out death of the entire movie, he nearly dies in the vacuum of space, but Adam Warlock saves him, thus proving that once again Groot was correct. Everyone is saved, everyone is happy, and then we get our epilogue here where Quill says, you know what? It's time we kind of go our separate ways, a lot of us.
He has this Rambo 4 moment where he goes back to the farm.
Yeah, and we all wish that had been the end of Rambo.
Yep.
Because we saw the other one.
Yep.
But Quill decides, I'm going to go back to Missouri. I'm going to find my grandfather if he's still alive. I've been running from my past and my life for a long time, and I need to deal with that. Nebula decides, I'm going to stay here on Nowhere and lead the city and try to make it the type of home I always wanted. And Drax, you stay here because you're supposed to be a dad.
And Mantis decides she wants to go off too.
Mantis decides she goes off, so she takes a bunch of the Aboleths with her, and that's a whole thing. And Groot stays with Rocket, and Rocket leads the new iteration of the Guardians of the Galaxy. They have a dance party to some terrible 2000s music.
I like that song.
You're allowed to like terrible things. It's okay.
All right.
Our mid-credits scene is the most relevant one, where the new Guardians, featuring Groot, Rocket, new Finhead, not Yondu, I forget his name, but the guy who took over Yondu's arrow.
Raglan, yeah.
Kraglin.
Thank you. And Captain Marvel Jr.
Phyla.
That's not a joke. She does become a Marvel, I think, at some point.
In the comics, she's the daughter of the
Yeah.
original Marvel.
So Captain Marvel Jr. has the same power. Like as soon as she fired up her powers, like that's what. Oh, great, you're one of them. They all talk about music, and Rocket plays the same song from the first Guardians.
Come and
some
get your
reason-
love.
By
Come and Get Your Love.
Redbone.
As he and the rest of the Guardians embark on another mission, and he fondly recalls all the steps that he took to get here. And then in our post-credit scene, Star-Lord and his grandfather have breakfast together.
All right,
While
David.
reading a newspaper about how Kevin Bacon got abducted by aliens.
What did you think
Again,
of the
Guardians of the
what,
Galaxy Holiday Special.
what did you think of the movie, David?
I thought it was very well done. Like James Gunn is just such a solid filmmaker. Like he just seems to know exactly what to do to get the right emotional responses out of people and to make everything gel sort of seamlessly together. Like there are scenes in this film where I am laughing and I am crying and I am angry and I am happy and I am sad, all in about the same minute of screen time, and none of it feels like it doesn't belong together. Like this isn't like Taika Waititi's, darkness, 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 joke, dark, 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 joke. He just has this really good talent for melding all this stuff together. And yeah, if you are someone who loves cute and cuddly critters, you might want to be careful about going to see this one. Yeah, I think James Gunn was watching Toy Story and saw Sid's toys and went like, what if they were cute and fluffy animals? And it might be a cheap way of pulling at people's heartstrings, but damn it, it worked. The action scenes.
Yes to both of those.
Yes,
it is cheap, but it does work.
Yeah, action scenes were decent. I mean, his choice of music is always spot on for everything. Everyone had an arc. Everyone had their own thing to do. It didn't seem to focus on one character more than the others. Well, maybe with the exception of Rocket, who's in a coma for 3/4 of this film, but still manages to be affecting. I even love it. Like at the end, both Nebula and Drax get like a mini character arc in like the last 20 minutes of this film, and it actually works.
Yeah,
like that is a better character arc than I've seen in entire movies written by other writers. Alex Kurtzman. Something
not wrong.
Yeah, like it was a good swan song, I thought, for Gunn to go out on, and I think it seemed like he was able to kind of just do his own thing for the most part. Like even the post-credit stuff never really seemed to tie into much else. My only real criticisms of it are, again, this thing is like 2.5 hours. Like I swear, like directors, you all should have to go and screen the final cut of your film after downing a big gulp immediately. Feel our pain. It's hard to appreciate the genius of your work with our legs crossed.
Here's a tall glass of green tea. Now watch Killers of the Flower Moon. You bastard.
Yeah.
Here's a jumbo-sized lemonade. Go watch Tar.
Yes. Yeah. Now, Mr. Cameron, we're going to lock you in this room, and you're not coming out until the film's over.
And by the way, your seat's electrocuted.
He would just walk out and go, that corner needs to be cleaned.
That's why I said make the seats electrocuted.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, but only other criticism is I am not a big comic reader, so I do not know Adam Warlock. From what I hear, it's not the Adam Warlock of the comics.
Nope. Not even close.
I will leave that discussion to people who know more than me about that.
It's coming up.
It does kind of feel like I think Adam Warlock was probably the biggest casualty of James Gunn getting fired. Like my assumption was there was the plan to have him be around for Endgame and fight Thanos, but now it's like, well, we teased Adam Warlock at the end of the last film, so we kind of need to have Adam Warlock in this film.
He felt like a studio note for this. Like,
yeah,
the Adam Warlock character could have been written out of this movie very easily.
The whole anything having to do with the Sovereign could have been written out of this, and I feel like it was. And I feel like it wasn't included in the first draft. And then they were like, oh, shit, we never really resolved the Sovereign stuff or Adam Warlock from the second movie. I think we better. And they were like, fuck it, attach it to the High Evolutionary then. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I did like the plot thread that the High Evolutionary created the Sovereign. I
thought
that
wasn't
was
a bad way of integrating him.
It was way obvious it was tacked on.
It's back. Yeah, it's totally backfill, but it's not the worst way to go about that either.
Yeah.
Okay, let me put it this way. If they had just said that line without actually having Adam Warlock or the High Priestess in there, it was just a casual mention that he created the Sovereign, that still would have been cool.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah. Speaking of the High Evolutionary, I think this is probably one of the better villains we've gotten out of Marvel.
By a mile.
He's
I
top
love
notch.
this guy.
He was
Love him.
menacing. You hated him. He was somewhat entertaining. He didn't chew the scenery too much, but like you see, like he's imposing, yet also he's almost comical when things don't work out, and he has his breakdowns and freakouts.
In no particular order: Loki, Charlton Heston, not Charlton Heston. What the fuck is his name from Winter Soldier?
Robert Redford.
Robert Redford, Loki, Thanos, High Evolutionary. You
That's
guys,
kind of it.
yeah.
Yeah, we should have a podcast about villains in the MCU.
I did.
Hey,
2
wait a minute. Hang
episodes.
on. I got it. Here we
Don't
go.
do-
Robert.
don't
Everyone
do
loves
that.
a bad guy. Marvel Villains Part 3. You know that got me dinged, by the way. I even after I went out of my way to use a non-dingable theme, it got dinged regardless.
How?
Nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, and though it was really nice of him to put English on that cage at the end for us in the audience. I mean, yeah, like why is everybody speaking English in the first place? But
Well,
anyway,
there's
yeah.
there's technically an in-universe explanation for that, believe it or not.
Mhm.
Quill and a couple of the others actually have universal translators installed on them, and it's shown that they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're also speaking their own language, but the translator makes it so we
They
hear.
all have
but the raccoon cage at the end was labeled in English.
It was.
They all have the babble fish. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, sorry, that was my one Mr. Wizard moment. So
But appreciated.
yeah,
I'm sorry. I always pick at Alexis for that, so it was your turn because I love you guys to death, and the fact that you're all like, let's talk about the minutia of all of this stuff that doesn't matter.
The world building does matter.
We're nerds. It's what we do.
we
I know,
have
you
this
guys-
moment where Rocket looks and he finds the other baby raccoons that the cage that he came from, and he looks into their little eyes, and they look into his eyes, and he like lets them out, and he like cuddles them all up, and they all start crawling over, and it's this beautiful emotional moment of him accepting himself, and oh, look at the cute little critters, they must be saved. And I'm just thinking, why is that sign in English?
Yeah, I understand everyone on this podcast has autism. It's fine. But anything else, David?
I think I'm good for now. I'll kind of
Okay.
maybe bounce off of everyone else when.
Go ahead, Alexis. Show us where you pissed from.
Okay, well, I will start with saying that yes, I absolutely loved the High Evolutionary. Okay, so I am undoubtedly gonna massacre this actor's name,
I call him Chuck Norris. Go with that.
Chukwudi Iwuji, I believe is how it's
God bless you.
pronounced.
Good attempt.
He doesn't actually go by Chuck. So
Perfect.
I can
we
understand
saw
why.
him previously in Peacemaker, which was also directed by James
Oh, yeah.
Gunn. And he was great in that. And yeah, this is it is so great to get a sociopathic, megalomaniacal villain with a god complex who we just want to see get taken down so badly. We want to see
a villain
him
with a clear
suffer.
motivation. It was nice to see a clear motivation that isn't I want to take over the universe or kill the universe. It was Robert talks about this on his very successful 10-year-long podcast. Everyone loves a bad
The
guy.
love of the last episode was over 10 years ago is kind of what we're getting at there.
But one of the things that came up all the time, I'm going to go back to you in a second, Alexis, was the fact that your best villains are the ones that believe they are right and have a clear motivation for what it is that they're doing. He wanted to make the universe a better place. He was doing it through experimentation. He didn't think he was doing anything wrong. That's great. And it was nice.
There is no God. That's why I stepped in.
Right.
Such a good line.
It really
It
is.
is.
It's one of the best
Yeah.
written lines in any Marvel movie anywhere. I was actually impressed.
Yeah, well, that and you don't want a perfect world. You just hate the way things are.
Yeah, it's less good. Go ahead, Alexis.
No, I absolutely loved him. Like I said, you guys are right. It has been a while since we've had a Marvel villain that we just adored on screen. I do love a good complex villain who's got, issues with their motivation and whatnot, but every now and then it's so great to have someone this blindsided into their passion. The fact that, all of his advisors are going, you need to stop, chasing the fucking raccoon. You need to give it up. And even he's just like, no, I won't. He will
Sir,
not
I believe
let
you've gone
go.
mad with power. Have you ever tried going mad without power? It's terrible. Nobody pays attention.
Yeah, he goes full freaking Ahab on these guys. I really did enjoy this movie. James Gunn, going back on a lot of things that David brought up, yes, James Gunn has an incredible talent for working with an ensemble cast. Every single character in this, and yeah, we'll shelve out a Warlock for now, but yeah, every single character had an arc, had a storyline, did not feel forced, did not feel tacked on. You don't forget that anyone's there. It's like, oh yeah, were you part of this? It's not a case of why the hell are the Lost Boys here? Who the hell cares? They don't have to be here.
Hey!
Wait,
We're going to be reviewing that movie for months.
wait a minute.
Wait,
Why
hang on. Before she gets herself canceled, it's the lost inclusion of children, not Lost Boys. The boys, you can't say boys in the year of our Lord 2023.
By the way, James Hook was one of them. His name was still on that door. Why in the world did he have to be led back to that place where he grew up?
The critical drinker asked the same question. Stop stealing from him, you hack.
But Mark, Red Letter Media just put up their Guardians of the Galaxy 3 review. I didn't have time to watch it before this one.
Neither did I, and I'm utterly
I'm having to generate my own original thoughts here.
I know. I wasn't able to steal
Perish
from
the
them.
thought.
I wasn't able to steal from them either. This review's gonna suck because of it. Speaking of which, go ahead, Alexis.
FYI, I try not to steal from other critics. Or at least
We all try.
We tried. The key word being try.
I try and cite them when I do, if I take a point from anyone else.
So Radulich Broadcasting Network stealing liberally from the internet for over 10 years. Go ahead, Alexis.
All right. And yes, this movie hits your heartstrings at all the right moments. This is a movie that, yeah, I didn't cry, but I was pretty damn close several times. There were multiple times where I did the whole raise your mouth to your hand, just going, oh my God, those kind of moments. I don't know exactly what you'd call the reaction, but I did that a lot.
Yeah, parents, you're going to want to pre-screen this one before you bring your kids to it.
Or hear me out, bring your kids on a school night to a 7.5-hour marathon.
So which of us
Mark,
did
is there
that?
something you want to tell us?
Jeez, Mark, I wonder which state you live in.
He's admitted to that multiple times. Like that.
Yeah,
Mark did
that's
that.
not a secret. I put it on Twitter.
No, I loved every part of this movie. There were so many moments that, yeah, just really caught me off guard, hit me emotionally, tons of wonderful laughs. All of the actors did a really good job. I still don't get the whole Chris Pratt hate. He was phenomenal in this. He's been good in pretty much everything
People
he's
just
done.
don't. People just don't like him. It has nothing to do with his work. They just don't like him.
He got shit in this for this movie, or just general Chris Pratt hate?
Just general Chris Pratt hate. I mean, we've talked in the Mario Brothers movie about how people threw a bitch fit when he got cast as Mario, even though we watched and we said he was good.
Yeah, but that's because he wasn't going to sound like a Goomba. But like, I don't understand. In 50 words or less, fill me in. I don't get the Chris Pratt hate.
Oh, I
Don't talk
can
about
do this.
Mario.
I can do this very quickly.
Please, Robert, go ahead.
He's a member of a church that has been accused of gay bashing.
Moving on. Go ahead, Alexis.
Yeah. Apparently that church has actually been affiliated with another church that supported conversion therapy.
I so wanted to not get into it. Please continue.
You opened Pandora's box.
I asked I got an answer to my question and then went, yikes, and said, let's move on.
Hey, it was still under 50 words.
Oh, Loki.
This was a real tour de force for it. It was a showing of how good of a filmmaker James Gunn is. Why I made the joke earlier about how this is probably the best thing that's going to happen to Warner Brothers, and the worst thing that happened to Marvel was letting him go, because it's clear that he is one of the most powerful directors that they have, and he has brought them 3 amazing movies and 1 Disney Plus special that we greatly enjoyed. And it sucks now that they're not going to get him from Marvel anymore.
All right. I like the movie. I don't know if I liked it. Having sat through the marathon, I don't know if I think the High Evolutionary is a better villain than Ronan the Accuser or Ego, but I think overall nothing beats the first one.
It's the most mindless fun, or even a bit mindful fun.
It's more than mindless fun. Having sat through them again and being able to reappraise them, all sitting through it all at once, I will tell you the first one is a lot leaner and a lot more straightforward. Feels less like a video game going through a series of fetch quests. Thank you, Critical Drinker. See, that's how you steal. But this one felt disjointed. This one felt, you talked about like studio notes with the Sovereign and especially Adam Warlock, and boy, will I get to that in a moment. Look, I'm not taking it away from James Gunn. He made a good movie. This is by far the best Marvel movie in, since Endgame, not counting No Way Home.
I'd even count No Way Home and say this is better.
But I don't count No Way Home because it's half a Sony jam, and I don't want to get into the debate about that. So if you're talking about Marvel movies proper with no other studio interference, this is the best one they've done since Endgame, and great, good for them. But it's not perfect, and I'm not going to heap giant amount of praise on it because it's got some issues. Not the least of which was it drags and the pacing's off. It's disjointed in places. That third act is interminable, and it's a little unreadable at times. Like, I watched The Suicide Squad, and the action in it is very readable. We talked about that when we reviewed it a few years ago. I couldn't follow that third act, and it went on fucking forever. I was getting lost in parts of the ship or the pyramid or the office building he worked in that was flying around. There were parts where it was like they would like finish up a sequence or a set piece, and then they would go back to, and this I think goes to the art of setting in your movie. They keep going back to the same places in that same building. It got way boring after a while. It was driving me nuts. And then like your big final action set piece is the bridge between two ships, and at first it's pretty cool, but it also goes on forever. And by the time we get to Peter doing an Indiana Jones with his fucking hat, only it's a Zune, and then he doesn't make it, and he ends up being dropped out in space. And I was like, oh shit, we're gonna kill Star-Lord. I could finally look at my son with tears in my eyes and tell him this is the greatest moment of our lives. They're gonna kill a major Marvel character, and then they bring him back to life again. And I'm like, oh fuck this movie.
I was like, why don't these characters all bring spacesuits with them? They're like these little like disc things that
I know, right?
Yeah, they established that in the second movie. They have the access to that technology.
Right. They had the little the force field thing. But like they look, I don't care that they have it or they don't have it. They kill him for a moment, and it's again as if somebody at Marvel was like, you can't kill him. We're gonna use him later. Like, god damn it. And now you have to which was a nice moment for Bane to go out there and get him. But I was like, ugh, we can never have any stakes in these movies. Again, my son, 9-year-old genius son, said it a few years ago, and it remains true. Nobody fucking dies in Marvel movies. Everyone comes back to life. It's the most annoying.
Except for Ben Parker.
Yeah, except for Ben Parker. I'll get into the Adam Warlock thing, and I'm not going to take this from I'm married to the canonical comics. That is Warlock in name only. I will say this. I compared him to Bane from Batman and Robin. Bane was this really cool, menacing character. He has this whole Nightfall storyline in the comics that's wildly popular and now, worth tons of money, where he sets loose all of the villains in Gotham. Batman spends a night being beaten half to death by trying to put all these guys back in Arkham, and at the end of it, there's Bane, and Bane breaks his back, and he's fucked off for a year.
I will break the bat.
Batman. And it's great, and everyone loves Bane because of it, and because Bane was popular at the time, they had to make sure they threw him into Batman and Robin, but because they did him dirty, they turned him into Jojo the Monkey Boy, as I called him once on A Long Road to Ruin. Same fucking thing with Adam Warlock. I'm not going to sit here and bemoan the fact that this is Warlock in name only. He is nothing like his comic book character. I don't, however, think it's great writing to introduce his major character, who is Superman, is, despite being Superman, unable to, if he was just there to grab Rocket, why he stuck around for a fist fight, I have no idea.
Because he sucks. He's bad at his job.
Well, it's bad writing is what it is. They wrote him to where he's practically invincible. He grabs the small teddy bear, throws it in a bag, take the fuck off again. He should have been halfway to the Sovereign by the time anyone knew what was happening. And instead, because they have to we're going to do XYZ, so we have to have 1, 2, 3 set up. They write stupid, and he ends up in a fist fight for no reason, and then has an injury that isn't explained, and then he fucks off again until we need him later on in the picture. That's just not good writing, and it annoyed the piss out of me. And I don't like the fact that they didn't do anything. They essentially set him up as a goon And it was a waste of that character. If you want to have a goon character, make a goon character, or find one from Marvel canon that would work well for that. They used the wrong character for what they needed him for in the movie. Again, not great writing. I will echo everyone's sentiment about the High Evolutionary. He's the best part of the movie. He is absolutely amazing. Not going to get any awards for it, but he, I wouldn't cry if he got nominated for, Best Supporting Actor. He's phenomenal in this. He's the best performance in this. I do have to echo a lot of the complaints about Peter and Gamora, to where it's been a while. They left Earth. They left Earth after Endgame many years ago. At this point, a lot's happened, and he's still pining over her and hasn't gotten. And pine for your lost love, mourn for your lost love. I'm not going to sit here and say one shouldn't, and it's not up to me to say it should take a minute or a day or years or decades, whatever. We're all built differently, and love hits us differently, each one of us. But my frustration is he's still belly aching about the same point. But Gamora, and you brought this up, David. But Gamora, we're gonna eventually fall in love. He was like, yeah, I don't know you, asshole. I haven't met you in this timeline. At the time that I was yanked out of my own, I was, I hadn't even betrayed Thanos yet. I hadn't come up with a plan. Like, it's not this. The fact that they wrote him this dumb irritated.
It did get old fast.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he should have been a drunk during Thor: Love and Thunder. There was no, and that's another thing. They established this team one way in Thor: Love and Thunder. They're nothing like that in this movie. Like, do y'all talk?
To be fair, that's pretty much everything in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Well,
I'm convinced Thor: Love and Thunder is not canon.
It's a fan fiction.
And I would also like to
It's
utilize the
Quartz
canon.
fan fiction.
Other than that,
I'd like to introduce Taika Waititi to a canon, but
I can do another Ailstorm song if you want about a cannonball.
I probably didn't.
Last thing, as much as I enjoyed Counter Earth and the sequences on it up until the interminable ending, the bit where they're at the dining room table and no one speaks the same language and they're trying to communicate to each other, for about a minute or two, I could deal with that. And then 20 minutes later, when they're still doing it, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, how did you get through dailies with this and not think to cut this scene down just a bit? Like, it was one of those where I think they thought it was more clever than it really was, or funnier than it really was.
Yeah.
Either way, it's a baby that needed to have been killed, and which I guess leads to my final criticism. You're entitled to heap praise on James Gunn and talk about how great he is. He's probably one of the better working directors out there. Still not perfect, and still gets overindulgent. Still likes the smell of his own farts, and it shows in his movies. And I wish there had been a little more collaboration, a little more braver people around to say, no, James, this is dumb. Cut this. Robert?
Let me start negative. It's going to be easier because I have positive things to say about this, but it's going to be easier to start negative.
Oh, hang on. Once I forgot one thing, and if I don't say it, I'm going to be mad at myself. As much as I enjoyed No Sleep Till Brooklyn, and I was moshing with my kid in the seat, I literally just fucking elbowed him. I'm like, yeah, no sleep. We were banging into each other. It was great. That seemed totally mistimed. Like, they're still they're halfway through the song, and they're not even in the goddamn hallway yet. Like, it was. I also don't know if I would have used No Sleep Till Brooklyn. Like, if you wanted to use a Beastie Boys song, there's probably better ones to have used that would have made that a lot of fun.
There's only one Beastie Boys song.
And they should have used Sabotage. It would have been shorter. It would have been, again, that hallway scene goes on for fucking ever. And after a while, even I got bored with it. But, the No Sleep Till Brooklyn time cues to where it matches with the action, way off. I was like, who in editing thought this looked good and sounded good? It doesn't go together at all, really. Like, when they get into the fighting and you get that guitar solo from No Sleep Till Brooklyn, that's better. But in the beginning, it just goes on and on and on and on to where you're like, are they going to cut the song before they even get in the hallway? What's happening here? All right, now go, Robert.
To be honest, I wasn't even paying attention to the fight. I was just thinking, oh God, this podcast is going to last forever.
Not wrong. All right, so you mentioned that James Gunn's a little self-indulgent here, and I think that's right. This has the same problem that Thor: Love and Thunder did, in the sense that you've got a director and you did not give proper oversight. Thor: Love and Thunder, for mostly negative, but if there's positives to Taika Waititi's style, I assume they're present. It's Taika Waititi turned up to 11. This is Gunn at an 11, with all the good and bad that comes with it. I thought the music was not as good in this one. That they overuse it, and there's some choices that I didn't agree with, but that might just be me. I think the over reliance on the
Are you
use of
talking the music doesn't match the tone of the scene, or I don't like that song?
both.
Okay, one of those is objective, and I think fair criticism, and the other one is your opinion.
I'm aware.
Okay.
But I think the over reliance on it was a bigger issue. Again, he leaned too hard into it, and I think it became a problem as the movie progressed. This movie does not need to be 2.5 hours long. It doesn't. This is not a 2.5 hour long story the way they structure it. It leads to long sequences of slightly longer shots. It leads to overlong action sequences that they're not bad, but they just drag. And it leads to busy work. Like there's that entire fetch quest with the living corporate building. Like, no, Mark. Like that entire bit, it's a good, 15 minutes of the movie, and it accomplishes almost nothing.
Yeah, they get the code that tells them this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Like the only thing it does, that actually in theory affects the plot is, one, it tells them where to go next, which could have been solved with better writing. Two, it reintroduces Gamora to the crew, which again could have been solved in any number of other ways.
It also makes up for Nathan Fillion's cameo in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 being cut, hence why he's in this movie longer.
Yeah. I really wish they'd stop putting the whole cast in the opening credits. It ruins the surprise.
In some cases, yeah, Fillion would have been a nice surprise.
Yeah,
Even though we all knew he was going to come.
I didn't until I saw the opening credits. Same with Kevin Bacon in the Christmas special. Like, that would have been so much more fun. It's like, oh wow, it's actually Kevin Bacon. But it's like, oh yep, there he is. Saw his name in the opening credits.
So that whole thing could have been reworked or cut without too much difficulty. And it just drags the movie a little bit. Keeping Rocket in a coma for as long as they did, I think, was a mistake. I don't mind the flashbacks. I don't mind him being in peril. I don't mind his peril being the driving force for it being the impetus for our heroes. That's all fine. But he needed a bit more agency in this story.
Yeah,
and
I agree. He needed to come out of that coma way sooner.
And so that's a problem. The most interesting beat in this story is sadly just glossed over. I tend to think the most interesting thing they could have touched on is, what do you do when you create, in theory, the perfect society and all the same problems that exist in your observable imperfect society still crop up?
In defense of them glossing over it, they're not bright enough to examine that fully. This isn't people who wrote Star Trek TNG.
Fair enough. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a big thing I wanted out of this movie that I didn't get, I needed a better confrontation between Rocket and the High Evolutionary.
Yeah.
I
you get it as part of the flashback, but that's supposed to substitute for a final confrontation between the two of them.
And it doesn't work. That's fine for establishing. Again, I like the flashbacks. I think they work.
Mm-hmm.
But I desperately wanted them to have an actual conversation. Not just, he shows up and yells insulting things at Rocket, and Rocket goes, "No, my name is Rocket Raccoon, not this series of numbers," and then shoots him.
Even though that was kind of badass.
It's a fine moment, but you've lost the opportunity to have this very interesting force in the High Evolutionary have a conversation with his greatest creation that he doesn't want to admit is his greatest creation. I want this piece of you, not all of you. And why you? Why did you figure this out? There's something there that could have been discussed.
Right.
and would have been interesting and would have been really awesome.
In a different movie that isn't serving the master of general audience appeal, there's a scene where the High Evolutionary is sort of at his wit's end, trying to figure out how they accidentally created this life form that can independently think and create, and why can't he recreate it, and what is his life's work all about if he only did it by accident and can't figure out how he did it in the first place.
Yeah, like that's interesting. That would have been
Mhm.
something. And sadly, again, we don't get it. You can still have the same ending where, with Rocket shooting him and setting up the fight with the rest of the Guardians, which is a fine enough ending for the evolutionary character. But you left a lot on the table there that was rich with potential, and it's just kind of sad. I'm not a big fan. The stuff with Peter and Gamora, not only am I not really a fan of that, I'm not the biggest fan of the characterization they went with for Gamora here in general. It, like, her interactions with Peter get really tiresome, and more so like Peter's reaction to them. Like, that guy did he lose his spine somewhere along the line? Like, it's not great in that respect, and I get what they're trying to do, and I'm not saying there's no authentic emotion between the characters and between the actors, because there is, but our route to getting to the end point there was just kind of a chore that didn't do anyone any favors. There's a couple of moments where the actual logic of the story is completely subsumed by the intended emotional payoff, and it annoys me. For example, when Drax reveals he can speak the language of the children, and Nebula goes, "Why didn't you just tell us that, you idiot?" And he goes, "Well, why didn't you ask?" Because they're children, and it's logical to assume that if you could speak to them, you would do that instead of doing your stupid robot dance. But because we want the emotional payoff of Gamora going, "I finally saw your value, please stay and be a father," whatever. But because we want the emotional payoff, everyone has to behave stupidly, and this is a symptom, again, of substandard writing. There's better ways to do that. And it just kind of annoyed me that we wound up in that place where characters behave contrary to what has been established to be their nature in service of the payoff that you want.
I'm waiting for the pitch meeting where that gets addressed. Why won't he just tell them? Because we want the movie to happen.
So again, that's kind of a gripe. I liked all the acting. No one gives a bad performance here. Some of these actors know these characters very, very well, so they can do this stuff almost in their sleep, and to their credit. I wasn't the biggest fan of what they had Mantis doing. She just kind of serves to be whiny, emotional person. And her payoff is, I just need to know, I need to find my own inner power. I need to go read the Feminine Mystique and whatever. There's elements of what she does that work, but she was a better character in the first Guardians, Guardians 2.
No, okay, her and Drax. I'm gonna do my inner Alexis here. Her and Drax in the fucking holiday special is the best thing ever.
Okay,
their buddy cop moments, and even in this film, anytime it's the Drax and Mantis show, the movie is infinitely better.
I did love seeing the development of how Mantis fights. I mean, what was it when we talked? I remember someone brought this up when we reviewed Endgame, said something to the effect of, what the hell was Mantis doing?
Right, and then you see it in the holiday special where you're like, oh my god, Spider Monkey.
Yeah, and I love just how she's able to manipulate the guys. One was like, "You're a kitty cat. You're in love with it." She's like, "That was awesome."
Yeah, it was a lot of fun stuff. Keep going, Robert.
Yeah, I think that's kind of my problem. Is there's a lot of fun stuff you could do with Mantis, and to have her just, tell Drax no one listens to women, but if a man says it, Peter will listen.
No, she just says no one listens to me.
Yeah, that's the
reading into that a little bit, in my opinion.
A little, and then later when she's like, "No, Drax is important, even if he's stupid," and Drax goes, "Wait, you think I'm stupid?" And she just then commits assault. Like, no, just forget that happened. Like, can we just take a moment and talk about the villainy of that for half?
Could you imagine in real, like, David, you know, I called you autistic before, but here, sniff this rag. You'll feel a lot better about it. Like, no, you can't do that to people.
Yeah, that.
I'll just sprinkle some amnesia dust on the crowd. They'll forget all about it.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
That's a villain move. Like that's seriously manipulative.
Yeah, or
It's
try
not
illegal,
great.
immoral, all of those things.
So that I wasn't a big fan. Like they actually had a setup there for a good moment with Drax getting a little bit more self-realization about.
Well, it would have been a payoff to everything that happened in, I think it's the second movie, where he's like calling her ugly and shit the whole time.
Yeah, like again, there's ways you could have done that aren't just hand wave the magic and the last 5 minutes never happened.
I would have actually called, like, a better way to have done that would have been, you know, like, you think I'm stupid? Yes, and you said I was ugly 4 films ago. Well, fuck yourself. That's exactly how
No,
it wrote, but we're right
Look,
away.
she needs to say, like, you were honest when you said you thought I was ugly. I'm being honest when I think you're kind of stupid. And, work on it. Like, again, there's better ways to handle this than hand waving, and these aren't the droids you're looking for. Again, I like, as a general rule, I like Drax's arc. I liked, for as much as I hated the setup for him being just kind of a goofy dad to all those kids, because again, like the structure around that is my issue. The moment when he just kind of, I make monkey noises and then behaves like a robot. Like when he's just kind of being goofy for the kids, and you know, it's not just Nebula that goes, I finally see your value. There's a lot of like, Drax didn't do a whole lot in most of the other movies.
Yeah,
he's
no,
kind of there.
Yeah, he got his ass kicked for the most part.
And again, seeing that side of that character, it is genuinely a little bit heartwarming. I just wish the setup had been better because it's kind of cool.
You know, they were talking about crying before. That's one of the moments that I cried, and it's probably because of my own affection for dadhood. You know, my own sort of religious commitment to being a father. So, so there was a lot of projection and reflection in, like, you were meant to be a dad, and I'm like, oh, me too. We're like, oh.
As your children are there going, can we go now?
It's a special talent.
I may be in the minority on this particular opinion, but I'm gonna go with this one. The constant fake out deaths rendered them unimportant by about the third one.
You are not alone. I just said that 20 minutes ago.
Because we initially get the bit where Groot is reduced to a head, and you can, hey, wait, are they doing something with Groot? No, he just grows back.
Right.
Which, okay. Then we dramatically shoot Drax 12 times, and he's fine 2 minutes later.
He just
God bless them med packs.
He walks it off.
Then Rocket gets his I'm going into the light moment.
No, you're not.
And if you didn't bite on the Rocket one, and I didn't, because there's a danger when you lean too hard into there's a term for this. It's called bathos. If you undercut too often what you're trying to do, people stop caring. You start thinking about the story on a meta level rather than being in the story. When you get that close to Rocket dying like that and then take it away, I'm not saying you should have killed Rocket then. His story is still meant to go on. That's fine. But
that's probably why I reacted as harshly as I did to fucking Star-Lord.
Yeah, I didn't. When he is stuck in outer space, I don't buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm very aware. Like, no, you're not going to do that. I don't know how you're going to fix it, but I know you're not going to do it. And they don't. So there's just, again, you can only do that. You can do the false finish only so many times before people stop biting.
Right.
They overplayed their hand in this one because everyone's expecting a major character to die, so no one dies, which I don't hate.
Here's to me.
What?
Okay,
I
I'm sorry.
wasn't expecting anyone to die.
I actually thought for a minute that Quill was going to die on the grounds that I had seen the reports that Zoe Saldaña said she was done playing Gamora.
Yeah.
Right.
So we knew that her character was done, but I didn't know. I doubted she was going to die.
And they cut to Peter in the trailer screaming, and you assume he's screaming about her.
I assumed he was screaming about Rocket, given the whole.
No,
setup for
I'm
that
with
trailer.
Alexis. I assumed he was screaming about Gamora. And
I
then
assumed the High
another,
Evolutionary was doing something terrible to him.
and then another thing is you see Nebula carrying Peter out, which it's in the beginning because he's drunk and not because anything had really happened to him. And you're like, God damn it! But look, to cut this short so we can move this on and finally get to the next part of the review, they absolutely telegraph someone's gonna die in this, and it was in the marketing too. Like when they were doing interviews with the actors, they were like, "Oh my God, bad things are gonna happen in this one. They'll never be the same," and they all make it out alive. And I almost wanted to throw my pants, the popcorn, and a child at the
Yeah,
screen.
I didn't watch that.
Which child were you going to throw?
The one next to me.
He's not getting any more specific than that in a public forum. So, yeah, again, there was a lot of fault. So again, the false finishes there, it gets old in a hurry, and it just lost the emotional impact by the end for me. Now, again, individual mileage might vary, but that's where I was on it.
I was just thinking, I bet Adam Warlock's going to save him.
I didn't know if they were going to.
I've seen a movie before. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay, fine. I didn't think it was going to happen. Okay, call me the gullible one.
No.
I don't care.
Alexis, I'm on your side for once. Like, yeah, I
thought he was going to. I
I'm
honestly
sorry, his
thought
face
he
was
going to
fucking
die.
blown up. He's covered in frost. Fucking Carrie Fisher passed.
Yeah, that
him.
was
Like,
pretty extreme.
The whole
No,
thing.
Like, that's your key that it's not going to happen. Like when his face bloats like that
Mm-hmm.
in a movie with balls, yes, you end him looking like that. In a
Right.
Marvel movie, that's a bit too reductive. In any general audience movie like this,
Right. They threw him a Snuggie. He was fine.
Yeah.
All right. You done?
It's what you need a Thneed for. Exposure to the vacuum of space.
Shut up, Onceler.
Hey, I will sacrifice all the truffula trees if it will heal me from the vacuum of space that quickly.
In the interest of keeping this podcast
Under 3 hours.
Under 3 hours, instead of having a lengthy discussion on the effects of being exposed to the vacuum of space. So, Loki.
Okay, was there anything else I had?
Love you, Dave.
Look, ultimately, look, again, I don't mind playing the negative Nancy here. Ultimately, I think I came away from this movie with a positive experience. This is a good movie. I got my gripes with it. Fair enough. It's also, again, it's well done. Some of the emotional moments they're telegraphed, and I tend to think they're a tad on the quasi-manipulative side, but they're still effective. And it's not like they're out of left field for no reason. The acting's good. A lot of the action is good. I wish that, again, there's problems, but ultimately, if this is pass-fail, this is an easy pass as far as that goes. Easy pass.
Yeah, no, I would say since Phase 4 started, this is the best, not counting No Way Home.
Hang on. We're in Phase 5.
Since 4 started.
We don't count. Phase 4 is like the shortcut. We're not going to speak of it again, I'm fairly sure.
So, Loki.
So, not counting No Way Home, for me, it's and we don't necessarily have to do this the whole way through, but it's kind of this, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, and then after that, it's who the fuck cares? No, sorry. I'm not being true to myself. It's this, Shang-Chi, Black Panther, then who the fuck cares? I like Shang-Chi, and I'm standing by it. I'm allowed to have my own opinions.
You did. Look, for me, it's
and Eternals.
Please
no,
don't.
not again.
He's not here.
No,
you
Loki.
can't troll him. Yeah, for
go
me,
ahead.
it would be this Multiverse of Madness, which I had more fun at than I thought I would. And then I don't care.
Alexis?
What? I already said that I absolutely love this movie. Yes, it's got some flaws, but I think the positives greatly outweigh the
Weighing
negatives.
it against the other Marvel movies, like I think you've liked the vast majority of them, but where does this rank for you since Phase 4 started? This was the question.
No Way Home, I think, is still the best. Sorry, Robert. I would say this ranks up. This is okay.
Not counting No Way Home. No one listens to the rules.
Okay, fine. Then yes, this is the best. Easily.
Okay. What do you got? Any others that are close to it? Just out of curiosity.
Shang-Chi and Multiverse of Madness, I think, go up there a little bit. But again, the thing is that most of those movies, and yeah, Shang-Chi and Multiverse of Madness had the same problem, is that the negatives either outweigh the positives or the negatives are just too strong against the positives. Like, yes, there's more positives than negatives, but the negatives are really freaking bad.
All right. David,
The
where does this rank
finale of
for you?
Shang-Chi.
David, where does this rank for you? And then we're going to the money.
It's pretty close to the top. Like I guess I would probably say it's probably the best one overall. Like just from a film craft perspective. Since
what's close to it for you?
I would probably put the Eternals at second. I really enjoyed that one. Like yes, it didn't have enough time to really delve into its issues, but
hang on. David gets to be the star now.
Okay.
You are the only person.
I was waiting for the soundboard. I know. I'm on the spot. Okay, but no, like I thought that it was an interesting idea. It was decently executed. It had its flaws. I'm not going to do a re-review of the Eternals, but my only real big gripe about it was I wish it had more time to sort of delve into a lot of the things that it touched on, because there's a lot of really interesting stuff.
Guardians, you like Eternals, anything else?
It felt fresh to me, I think, more than anything else. Again, Multiverse of Madness, I had a good time with. I mean, again, we talked about that one. Wakanda Forever, I thought I'm cutting it a bit of slack because, their star died 2 months before filming and it was a mad dash to put it back together. I don't think they did it as best as they could have, but still for kind of like a last minute rush job based off of maybe not the best of decisions.
If I remember correctly, you liked Shang-Chi a lot too, didn't you?
I liked Shang-Chi overall. I mean, I'm a sucker for kung fu movies, but again, my only real complaint with Shang-Chi was, again, like, I don't think they really needed a kaiju fight at the end, but again, like, we're not gonna
I'm not relitigating.
Listen to our review of that, dear listener, if you haven't heard this before. And I mean, Love and Thunder is bottom of the barrel for all Marvel movies. I haven't seen the Inhumans. That's about the only chance Love and Thunder has for potentially not being the worst of the Marvel movies. Like, that is the one where I'm the closest to saying, like, that was bad. Like, that was the bad Marvel.
It was bad.
Marvel movie.
Yeah.
All right, folks. With that said, here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
All right. In the year of our Lord 2023, on a budget of $250 million, this thing has already made.
So just for the record,
that
when you factor in marketing, this thing, it probably needs to be around $1 billion to be profitable.
It might get there. 289. I don't want to commit too much to it. Fucking Dungeons and Dragons, but 289.3 million as of Monday. We're doing this on a Monday because I'm doing trivia at the Clothing Optional Resort tomorrow. Anyway, box office.
Sorry, I just vomited a little.
You're welcome. As of May 7th, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has grossed $118.4 million in the U.S. and Canada and $170.9 million in other territories for a worldwide total of $29.3 million. In the U.S. and Canada, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was projected to gross around $110 million from 4,400 theaters in its opening weekend. The film made $48.2 million on its first day, including $17.5 million from Thursday night previews. It went on to debut $114 million, topping the box office. Outside the U.S. and Canada, the film grossed $168.1 million opening weekend, and the highest grossing territories were China with 28.1, UK 14.7, Korea 13.6. I like how they say Korea and not South Korea because the other one don't count. Mexico at 13 million.
We all know.
And France, the country that fucked us on Megan, at 8.2 million. All right.
Surprised the Chinese allowed it because of the whole near-death experience scene.
Well,
or maybe that got cut.
I mean, you could have cut that. By the same token, near death is not the same as like definitive. Like, you can pass that off as his hallucination rather than a definitive stance on the afterlife. So,
all right, Guardians of the Galaxy, no surprise here, was the number one movie of the weekend, which we said it was way back when we talked about Mario sweeping the deck for a month straight.
Pretty much.
So, hang on. Before we move on for the rest of the question for all of you.
Yes.
What's the percent drop next week? Because
I'm going to go with 70 again.
Ooh, Mark aiming high.
Yeah, I don't have any faith in the movie. Let's put it this way. there was a conversation that was had with my children, the other child that lives here, and her mother, and my wife. But my just might as well have not have been a part of this conversation. So it was just us, and we were discussing the Five Nights at Freddy's movies, and because they know it's coming, the trailer dropped for it, but no one pays attention to anything else. They think it's coming out like tomorrow, and I'm like, no, it's coming out until October 27th, you lunatics. And then there was also like, oh, we have to go to the theater to see it, and I'm like, slow the fuck down. It's day and date on Peacock. They're like, oh, okay. As soon as I said it was day and date on Peacock, the entire table, women, children, everybody, we'll just watch it at home. 70% drop. I think we're just in this place of anyone that's going to go see the movie seeing it opening weekend, and then nobody sees it the second weekend. I just don't have any faith. I don't have any faith in the market right now. There were too many times I have seen perfectly good movies, perfectly well-received movies, and zero interest after the first week because everyone is willing to wait until it comes home in 20 minutes. And oh, by the way, in just the last, week or two alone, everything went PVOD. I don't even think we're waiting 45 days anymore.
A lot did. I'm going to be a little bit more bullish than you. I'm still going to say 60s. I don't think it quite gets to near 70s. Okay.
I mean, like, I'll go 60 to 70, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, that's not unfair. I mean, used to be like 55 was industry standard, and then, we are where we are now.
Right. But again, people just don't have they don't have the appetite for the in-theater experience, and it hurts my soul to say it. But if I have to hear one more broad talk about, I'd rather just watch movies at home. I don't want to leave the house. It's comfy here. I can be in my underpants. Okay. You guys aren't going to be happy until we're just flat out of fucking culture in this country, but whatever.
They're waiting for Wall-E to become reality.
You ain't kidding, man.
No, you
are not.
That is the most honest thing said in the history of this.
Seriously, that was not a joke.
No, you know what? You fucking get applause on that one. Hang on.
Darn right.
Everyone's just going to be wearing their onesies and those mobility scooters with like an iPad strapped to the front bars, not looking where they're going.
David's the fucking designated hitter tonight, man. He's just cracking them over the fence.
He really is.
Alexis, you want to guess a number?
I've never been good at guessing the drops, honestly. I don't think it's going to be as high as Mark's predicting, though. Okay, so I'm going to err on the side with Robert.
So, well, I said I adjusted to 60 to 70. Are you agreeing, or are you saying more than 70, less than 60?
I would say 60 or less.
60. Okay. So you're going 50 to 60.
Yeah, I guess that's probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dave, 50 to 60 or 60 to 70?
I'll be optimistic, 50 to 60. I'm just guessing here.
Yeah, I think you're all wrong.
We're all just guessing on it. We're just like trying to read some tea leaves here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do that for every movie, but for some of the big ones, I think it's important to kind of look at because
if this had come out when Ant-Man and the Wasp came out, I would be more bullish. But I've learned my lesson since then, and I've been burned. I now have cigarette burns all over me from you fucking people. I'm done.
I mean, well, to be fair,
I'm going 60 to 70 on anything now.
If this had come out before Ant-Man and the Wasp, it probably doesn't have a near 70% drop.
All right.
But, where we are.
So Mario finally got knocked out of the number 1 spot in its 5th week. It dropped to number 2, but it did make over $1 billion. More on that in a moment.
Please don't die, Mark.
Evil Dead Rise dropped from 2 to 3. That made over $100 million. It's the most profitable movie in that franchise. So good for them. And apparently,
seriously good for them.
Because we can't just have a nice thing and leave it the fuck alone. They're going to make 1 million more of these movies and television shows and Spaceballs the Flamethrower and just shoot me dead.
Well, okay, hang on.
No.
Yeah, hang on.
Leave it alone. It's nice the way it was.
The Evil Dead has always been a franchise play. Always.
Have you heard, though? They're like, this one made money. More sequels, more prequels, more everything. Ugh.
Okay, hang on. I'm not saying that I'm the most optimistic about this.
Mm-hmm.
But in fairness, one, there's a good appetite for it. Not the biggest, but you got to manage that. Two, there's a boatload of space in the Evil Dead franchise to play with.
I'm not really arguing that with you. It's more of like, I'm just so fucking gun shy now about anything. It's like something made money. Fuck it, leave it alone now. Don't ruin it.
I don't.
And it's more of a lack of faith in the talent of Hollywood than it is anything else.
Okay, that's fair. And again, I share your pain in a lot of respects there. But complaining about the fifth entry into a franchise spawning more of the same franchise seems that's the kind of argument I would make when I'm in a bad mood.
It's how we got to the ruination of DC. We're way too quick to make decisions. We're not putting any thought into what we're making, and we're losing money hand over fist. That's all I'm saying.
These also don't cost $200 million a pop.
Wait till the next one fucking does. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Dropped from 3 to 4. Hey, that was a Lionsgate movie, formerly a studio. Love Again debuted at number 5. John Wick dropped from 5 to 6. Dungeons & Dragons.
John Wick did not spawn another sequel into the franchise. Aren't you happy?
Shut up. It's John Wick 4, by the way.
Evil Dead 5. Don't make me repeat it.
Air dropped from 7 to 8. The Covenant staying at number 9.
You know what? That's unfortunate about that, but it actually held. I mean, again, you had a 60% drop, 65.
Sisu staying at number 10, apparently getting rave reviews. Currently on the list to be a double feature with Barbie when Ronnie and I review it later in the year. That's going to be fun. Barbie and Sisu.
I'm so angry about that, by the way.
Why?
Because Sisu looks awesome.
Oh, you didn't want to do Barbie. Go fuck yourself. How about that?
No, I said no to Barbie in 2016 when it was supposed to come out the first time.
Well, see, you never know what mad scientist shit I'm whipping up, and now you're losing out. Good for you.
Big George Foreman, 71% drop.
Yeah, it's staying at number 11 somehow. Ant-Man and the Wasp back in theaters again. Jumped into like fucking
what? Again, like I don't know where. Someplace finally did it finally get cut down for China? Like something like that happened.
Yeah, it went into 145 theaters and went up like 6,000%. So that jumped from 35 to 12.
It's still not going to be profitable.
No,
it's still losing money on that.
Yeah, fucking joining the Morbius Club. The Pope's Exorcist dropped from 12 to 13.
Hey, Mark, they're making sequels to the Pope's Exorcist.
Are they?
Yeah, I'm not kidding. It kept a reasonable budget. It overperformed, and people were like, you know what? There's more books that this priest wrote about this kind of stuff. We can still monkey with this. Why not?
Nefarious jumped from 17 to 14. Beau is Afraid, 13 to 15. Polite Society, 15 to 16. Suzume, 18 to 17. Renfield, 14 to 18. Chevrolet, 16 to 19.
You should just be calling it Cavalier.
I could do that too next time. Give me the next week. Somewhere in Queens, 19 to 20. And finally, Showing Up, 24 to 21. All right. Worldwide, number 1 movie in the world is currently Super Mario, and with a deep break in between $1 billion and 475 is Ant-Man and the Wasp, John Wick, Guardians of the Galaxy debuting in the top 10 at number 4 with 289 million, above Creed, D&D, Scream, Shazam, Bathan, and Evil Dead Rise.
You know what? Good for Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah, it took the 10th spot away from Cocaine Bear, which hurts my soul a little bit.
And no one cares.
Air is 84 million. Titanic is at 14 with 70 million. Here are the current movies that couldn't do better than a 25-year-old Titanic. The Pope's Exorcist, Tragic Mike's Last Dance, Detective Conan, 65. Can we stop for a second and discuss the casting? This looks like it was confirmed that Adam Driver is going to be Mr. Fantastic.
If you want to sink your movie, that's a good choice.
Why would they cast him as Mr. Fantastic when he would be a phenomenal Von Doom?
Yeah, I bought that faster than I would have bought Reed Richards. You know, it's one of those where Adam Driver's a fine actor.
You know what? Let's come here. You know what? Let's guarantee the Fantastic Four movie sinks. I can do this in 3 casting choices.
Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie as Sue Storm, Adam Driver as Reed Richards, and let's throw Jake Gyllenhaal as Victor Von Doom. Those are your 3 people that people think should be leading movies. that had no
Jake
track
Gyllenhaal
record.
already played Mysterio, and Marvel has
No one cares.
So here's the thing. Well, he's poking fun at you there, but there's something to be said for sometimes you're in a movie that does well despite the fact that you're in it, and then you're in a movie and you can't get it to do well because you're not box office. Margot Robbie, Adam Driver, fucking Jake Gyllenhaal. You know,
Dude, all of them talented actors, every single one of them.
Yeah,
Not
no,
taking away from
absolutely.
their ability.
Here's the thing, Adam Driver. I'm going to go back
And
to
then
the
and let's finish it off with me. Let's go through with Mila Kunis as the Thing.
that was not proven. She openly said that's not happening.
I hope it does.
Just let it burn.
Just because I want this fucking movie to fail. Look, let me say this because people are just like, but Adam Driver was in the Star Wars movies. The Star Wars name made $1 billion. Adam Driver didn't drive people into the the season. I mean, people may have enjoyed him in the Kylo Ren role. So certainly, they liked him with his shirt off. Him and Daisy Ridley had some fun chemistry. I'm not denying any of those things. Stop. But let's face it, if it's not
killed Star Wars, let's be fair.
If it's that would be Kathleen Kennedy. Put the blame where it belongs.
Sure,
Thank you.
He was the forward. Him and
no
Daisy
one
Ridley
went to
forward
those
faces.
movies for Adam Driver.
True.
And if they had, they would have then gone to see 65. No one saw 65. That's why I'm bringing that up. So, the conversation that was had in our group chat, which I'm now going to put out for public consumption, was the following: You're struggling. You're a franchise in decline. Marvel is, and I don't want to continue to beat that horse. Just if you don't believe me, listen to 87 of our last podcast where we talk about Marvel or not. Okay. We have been documenting every single week the decline of Marvel. So at this point,
none of us are celebrating it. None of us are making an emotional stance here. For the sake of this argument, all we're talking about is is the empirical evidence about the MCU being in decline. Flat.
So here's the thing. At this point, and this is the kind of the Chris Bailey argument of, hey, when everything is failing and the world's on fire, and and you've got to make some changes. This is where you go to the tried and true. Now, I understand we're also the same podcast that says there's nobody left in Hollywood that's box office. Okay, they've
tried to kill the movie star. Hollywood has tried to kill the movie star for a long time.
But still, they should have taken a big swing and gotten somebody that could at least, there's a chance of drawing based on their name in combination with the property.
You wanted them to try and hire Tom Cruise.
Kind of. Like a Tom Cruise type, a Dwayne Johnson type. Somebody that's got high enough name recognition and has some degree of proven box office success for the role of Reed Richards, and surround him with a couple of more to boost this up, because essentially you can't keep the Marvel formula of lesser known actors and first time directors isn't really working anymore. It used to work just fine. It's not working anymore. People are wise to it and it sucks. So I can't believe I'm the guy saying this, but hey, why can't we get some big guns in there? Let's do. This is where David and I had this conversation. It's probably the best way I can say this. We talked about, and Dave brought it up before, Picard season 3, where the first 2 seasons of Picard were absolutely not what anyone wanted, and the fucking writing staff just gave up. And they were like, just give them what they want. Give the babies all the candy. And what do you know? Universally praised Picard season 3. Marvel has to start thinking like that now. Like, we have done fucked up year after year after year. We now need to just placate fans. For the next little bit, give all the babies what they want. Adam Driver as Mr. Fantastic is not what the babies want.
Well, what the babies want is never going to happen, and that was...
John Krasinski?
Yep.
That's what they should have done.
I maintained that bit with him as Reed Richards in Multiverse of Madness was... We talked about this when we reviewed that movie. That's an angry movie, man. That's an angry, bitter
That was a
movie.
middle finger up the ass of the fans. And I'll tell you, we're a couple of movies since then in many months. They absolutely should have looked at that, looked at what happened thereafter, and went, you know what? Tell Emily Blunt we're buying her an island. Preferably any island she wants. She's going to be Sue Storm. Give that woman anything she needs to be that character.
Get her and her husband, yeah.
Yeah, get John Krasinski in there. Bring back fucking Michael Chiklis as the Thing. Like, let's make this happen. And instead, they're just like, nope, we're going to double down on dumb. Fine,
You
Marvel.
know, we
watch. I'm gonna watch Marvel dig its own grave and laugh the entire time.
I've thought about this for a little bit because I've been trying to
Mhm.
figure out exactly what's going on with this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so counterintuitive. Like, you shouldn't be burning this much money.
Right.
You really shouldn't. Like, what's going on here? And I think what we have is an unfortunate confluence of a couple of things. One, you have people at the top level who don't understand how tenuous their brand power is.
Right.
That hurts. Two, you have this weird conglomeration of 2 points. One of which is the old notion that any publicity is good publicity, which is not true anymore. It was true for a long time. Not true anymore. Publicity these days is dirt cheap. You got a Twitter. So do I. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's cheap. Those are two different things. It's cheap. Bad publicity is just bad publicity at this point, especially with your brand damaged, which it is.
Right.
And you have, and I don't know where this comes from, but I'm fairly convinced that there's people in place, and this is not just Marvel, this is a lot of places, that have the notion of the ideal fan. Like, who are we appealing to here?
Right.
And nobody wants the audience that they have.
No, that's for certain.
And it's resulted in this really weird bit where we're going to piss off the fans because we don't want those fans. We want X fans. We want the good fans, the ideal fans. And we don't care about the bad publicity because it's publicity, right? It's good.
Yeah.
And you've got this unholy conglomeration of facets that have turned into this, again, this monstrosity it ain't going anywhere good.
That all got triggered because I saw 65 is at 18 with $56 million. You real quick.
You couldn't even reach your name. You couldn't even get to 65.
Wah, wah.
That's pretty good.
Okay. On a $45 million budget, it made $56.2 million. Yeah, this is a fucking bomb, dude. Absolutely a fucking bomb. Stop with the Adam Driver. He's not a fucking movie star. It's fine when you're hitting on all cylinders and it doesn't matter who you put in your movie. It's not fine when you really need some heavy hitters. You need big name guys, and he ain't one of them. And it's kind of like, that's why I pulled it for TikTok a little ways back, because the other one was Margot Robbie as Sue Storm, as if like, and that is just the dumbest, lamest casting, because that's another one where, what do we know about this character? She's blonde. Who's blonde in Hollywood? Margot Robbie. This is the level of thought we're putting into this. And she's not, and as we showed through empirical evidence, not box office at all. Moving on. Needed to have that rant. Knock the Cabin is number 20. Right, so that's where we are worldwide. Guardians of the Galaxy has a wide berth. It's going to get another week. It's going to get a free pass. Nothing is coming out on the 12th worth talking about. Absolutely nothing. The next movie of any note is the last series of Fast and the Furious movies. This is part 1. It's Fast X, but it's Fast X Part 1. So that comes out on the 19th.
We got the trailer for that when I saw it, and I just, like, every time someone said something, I felt like they just should add the word "again" to the end of that sentence.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. And then the
And
little
no one was dead, but I'm coming back for you, Toretto. Again.
Right, so
I'm gonna take out your family. Again.
It's like that scene from the fake trailer in Tropic Thunder for the Ben Stiller thing. It's like, and no one could have predicted that it would happen 5 more times.
So Guardians doesn't have an easy road ahead of it, because it's got 2 weeks to make all the money it's going to make, and then it has to go up against the Fast X movies, which is still a viable franchise, because someone need to fucking deal with the devil.
I don't know. Like, I don't know what Vin Diesel sold to make this franchise.
It's fucking successful as it's been. But yeah,
all logic.
Yeah, it's and this one is this one's the Avengers of Fast and Furious movies. Everyone's in this.
Hey, Jason Momoa will be playing the son of that guy Reyes from Fast 5. Never mind that that's not actually how you would pronounce that, because we don't care. We can be xenophobic and judgmental about South American culture.
Let's go.
Anyway,
drive
The Little
fast.
Mermaid comes out the 26th.
That one bothered me.
And clearly, and we talked about this on Peter Pan and Wendy. That movie is gonna bomb so badly, and hopefully
Dude.
it takes
Well,
fucking,
if there's a god.
and hopefully it's gonna take Disney with it.
Have you? Okay, I have to say this because the following complaint is not just about The Little Mermaid.
Mhm.
But they released that clip from Kiss the Girl, right? It's
Yeah.
on the internet.
Yeah.
Why, oh why, is everything these days drenched in shadow? Everything.
Yeah,
You're not wrong. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, my complaint is like, this is a crate of the universe. I understand the mechanics,
I-
but like,
Okay.
there's maybe 3 directors in the game right now who understand how to make that visual style work. Maybe 3.
Right. So you
None
have
of
the Little
them are
Mermaid.
at Disney.
You have the Little Mermaid on the 22nd. On my birthday, you have Enter the Spider-Verse 2. The 9th is Transformers. The 16th is so I was ranting about this at the table today with my
Alright.
kids, and no one quite understood why I was so angry. They moved the Flash back a week from the 20th. The
He
counter
traveled-
program against Elemental, and I don't know why.
He traveled back in time, Mark.
Ugh, fuck off. Listen. So now, like, we're gonna do Elemental first, just because that's where it was on the schedule, and it doesn't really matter which one we do first. So we're gonna do Elemental first, and then we'll do Flash the following week. But they come out at the same fucking time. And then there's a free week on the 23rd, and then we have this is fucking stupid Indiana Jones.
And the pile of burning money.
Yeah. After that, we get a free week. But we're gonna review Flamin' Hot. After that is the new Mission Impossible. After that, we have the main event, the main event of this WrestleMania season, Barbie versus Oppenheimer, which I'm really excited about.
Okay, you want to know the sad thing?
Yeah.
I'm half tempted to say Mission Impossible repeats that week.
Maybe. Then we have Haunted Mansion, which looks pretty good. Then the Meg. Then we have another.
Woohoo! I am
split.
down. I am down for the Meg Part 2. Bring on the schlocky fun.
We have the Last Voyage of the Demeter versus Gran Turismo. And we have Blue Beetle, which is gonna bomb so hard. It's just fucking gonna take parts of Warner Brothers with it.
I feel bad for that one because it doesn't like the trailer doesn't look awful,
Right.
but it's been sent out there to die.
Yeah. And then the last
Pretty
movie of the last movie of the summer before we're into September, before we're into Sucktember, is
Oh, good. You
They
haven't
Listen.
let that joke die.
It's
Mark
not a
never
joke.
lets
It's the
anything
official name of the
die.
month now. All right, Robert, and we can't spend too long on this because we're at the 2-hour mark.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
50 words or less. The writer's strike. Go.
Yeah, that's kind of the big thing. So the Writers Guild of America voted almost unanimously to strike. I remember when this happened in 2006, 2007. And nothing good came of this if we're talking quality-wise for entertainment. The writers got most of what they wanted, and good for them. That's what strikes are supposed to do. But if you want to know an indicator of how badly that went for the media involved, Breaking Bad was supposed to have twice as many episodes in its first season, and Jesse Pinkman was supposed to die. X-Men Origins Wolverine came out from this, as did Quantum of Solace, as did, what was the other one?
Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen.
Revenge of the Fallen. There's a fourth that is the one that I never remember. But you can look up the number of shows that were severely impacted by this. Lost went off a cliff when this happened.
There's the story of what happened to Heroes. That's practically legendary.
Dude, if you don't tell anyone what happened, and you just let them watch Heroes, they will still go, what happened here? Because it's that noticeable. So that's what we're probably looking at something like that. We've already had a couple of casualties. Blade has exited pre-production. Stranger Things final season has exited pre-production because, again, we can't write. There's a lot of this is going to have a pretty serious backlog effect. I mean, look, I don't care that late night talk shows are going to go away. They all suck. But you're going to get a serious knock on from this, and it's If you've looked up their list of demands, it actually does indicate a couple of things that are interesting. One, they want better pay, which is fine.
Obviously.
They deserve it, I would assume. I mean, look, no one's lamented the death of writing in Hollywood more than me. So I'm not sad that I'm sure there's some people on that picket line who are meritocratically terrible, but there are good writers out there too, and they deserve to get paid, just like anybody else. They want a better deal as it pertains to residuals related to streaming platforms. Fair enough. This is an emergent issue that we need to handle. This is what unions exist for.
I remember when CM Punk was like, "Hey, are we getting paid for anything on the network?" And the WWE shot him and put him in the trunk.
I wish they had. But here's the big one. They want a resolution from all major studios that AI writing will not be used. And that's my response to that.
Yes. Ask the iron workers and the car builders how that went when they asked for no robots in the factories.
Let me say this, because I try not to indulge in Schadenfreude these days. I really don't. It's not a good look. It's not healthy for your soul. But there's a lot of people who were very convinced that automation could not touch them. And so they told everyone that it could touch, shut up and adapt. And now that it's hitting them, they're like, no, we demand protections.
Can I say that I'm all for AI writing scripts if the movies get better? And
I'm with you there.
Like, this is going to be like the level of sex in Springfield when the nerds took over and instituted on par as the norm. For some of you writers, things are going to get far, far worse. But for many of the scripts out there, things are going to get a lot better.
Here's the thing: like, if a few years from now we're like reviewing these Marvel movies, like, hey, have you noticed how good the Marvel movies are? Like, we haven't had a bad thing to say about these. The fucking robots took over is what happened. Oh, more robots then. Can we get more of these?
For the record,
it should be noted that, okay, the whole AI thing, I've seen what the AI is producing. AI is maybe, okay, I don't want to give a timeline because Lord knows when I do that, I'm wrong and it's probably going to go a hell of a lot faster. But I do think we are a ways away from having AI finished scripts that are competent.
Here's where I need to shut up for a second. I need to massage what she said. It's gonna be just fine for like mid-level streaming comedy. It'll be like like for the sort of like generic, $10 million script that they need to shoot to shove on a Netflix somewhere. They're gonna use plenty of fucking AI for that, and AI is gonna be plenty good enough for it. There'll always be space for somebody who's truly talented to write nice art and have a well-made movie get produced. But for the kind of like factory made movies that fill up a lot of streaming and some theatrical exhibition.
You mean we can talk about the Disney factory line, because that's what they've got.
I mean, like we were talking about with Plane, like like Lionsgate just sort of like pumping out mid-level encapsulated action movies. Yeah, look, a little ways back when we were talking about like the Bruce Willis thing where he's in like 100 million fucking foreign films that are like small budget action movies. Yeah, you don't think they're going to use AI for those? They'll be fine for it. It'll be absolutely fine.
As someone who has played around with ChatGPT, let me just say this. Some of what they're saying about their specific demands about it are the writers. They're leaning a little too far away from it for my taste. At the moment, its best use is as a force multiplier for your creativity. It's a great sounding board. It will bounce ideas around with you. It won't create something wholesale necessarily that's any good, but as a tool to help you refine and to help you generate, it's a nice tool. It's actually great for coding. My brother uses it for that.
I wouldn't mind seeing like an AI generated script and then like humans, like, okay, now that we have we have this unwieldy garbage, we at least have a starting point. Let's fix it. Let's put the human touch on it.
Initially, it will be human and AI sort of collaborating together. Yeah. I do think that we will get to the point where AI is able to do like creating wholesale scripts.
Yep.
But I think this is my big brain moment of this. I'll try and keep it quick. The good point of this, I think, is eventually AI is going to get to the point where it can do things other than scripting. Like
Yeah.
you will be able to generate entire movies through AI. So I think a lot of the
Good.
creative industries are going to be replaced by what I will dub prompters, whereas you sit at your computer and you're basically the director, and you just have like an AI screenwriter, an AI cinematographer,
Ex-
you know, like
as
and
somebody
you just
As somebody who's watched Hollywood, the people in Hollywood get way too big for their britches and speak on things they shouldn't and have a high inflated sense of self. Fuck these people. I hope they get replaced by robots.
yeah. I'm getting there. And
Oh wait, hey, sorry.
yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah. Can I? I'll just try and finish my whole thing.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, a couple of minutes here. Yeah. So yeah, you'll basically have people. I mean, it's still going to take them a bit of time to make this and render this, and there'll be like server farms that you can maybe pay a monthly fee to. But yeah, it will allow pretty much anyone to come up with any idea and make it. Now, a whole ton of crap is going to be made out of this because of Sturgeon's law, of course. And we are going to, and it's going to be a nightmare for copyright infringement because get ready for The Last Jedi Redux. Luke spends 3 hours murdering Rey with a lightsaber, part 37. As every single
20 billion.
Yeah,
it's the first movie ever to make $3 billion.
Seriously, like every single butthurt fanboy is going to be making exactly their continuity of what should have happened for all of these franchises, and the lawyers are just going to be shooting themselves because they have no idea how they're going to put a lid on any of this stuff. But I do think that out of this, we are going to get some like really creative stuff. We're going to get to sound all progressive, voices that have not been able to be heard and tell certain stories like at big levels. Like, I am all for minority voices making the gay cowboys eating pudding movies. Bring it on. But I am absolutely all there for the neckbeard revolution. But your sort of specialists are probably going to go by the wayside. Maybe you might get like a specialist to sort of help work with the AI to fine tune things for you. But that's probably where it's going to be. And I mean, it's not going to be tomorrow, but I think in a few years.
For the first time in a long time, I have hope. And here's why. Because Dave just gave me hope. Dave, you are like you heard
it here first, people.
You are like Jesus sent to me from God himself. Okay. And I'll tell you why. Hang on. The reason why I'm saying that, because my daughter keeps talking about like I want to be like a voice actress, and she ain't gonna be no voice actress. But
has she looked into how much money voice actors make? Let me say that again. Has she looked into how little money voice actors make?
So, but you're sitting here talking about like people who have
also AI and voice cloning. Voice actors are gonna get so
she ain't gonna be no voice actress. That's gonna be a talent that's going
that job's going away.
But you're just talking about prompters. My kids have grown up in a film house with a film father who has spent the better part of their lives criticizing film and teaching them the art of film criticism and writing and deconstruction. She's going to be one of those prompters. Yeah, I have hope that my daughter, such as she is, has got a career. He's got a successful career ahead of her in prompting AI film.
Yes, you heard it here at 8:08 p.m. on the 8th of May, 2023, the year of our Lord, that I have coined the term prompters.
That's right.
Fear not, world. My residuals are very reasonable.
His work here is done. All right, wrap this up, Robert.
Just on that same note, have you seen that? Apparently, there's somebody out there using a combination of AI writing and AI art to generate trailers for movies. Mm-hmm. The Star Wars movie, like one of the prompts was apparently like Wes Anderson's Star Wars movie.
Yeah,
I've seen this. Yeah,
that's the funniest thing ever. Like the point that was kind of raised was like, okay, Anderson has a very, very specific visual style, and this apes it, but it doesn't have the same creative spark that Anderson does, and that I think that's fair. At the same time, we're not that far away from it. When even someone that distinctive can have their style aped that accurately like that.
Oh yeah, you can totally say like, do this in the style of Spielberg or whatever.
Yep.
Or Tim Burton or Christopher Nolan. An insert director.
I was gonna say they've been batting around the Quentin Tarantino Star Trek, and now like I can fucking sit up my computer like Quentin.
I would be impressed if you can get an AI that'll do Tarantino. Like he might be the one where I'm like, oh, that might take a few extra years of modeling.
It would take a ton of refining because
what would make me laugh is like make Quentin Tarantino Star Trek, and it's like the N word every other word. Great.
Samuel L. Jackson is the Emperor.
Samuel L. Jackson is Kirk. It's Star Trek. All right. With that said,
right.
Here it is, folks. The much ballyhooed critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
All right. Well, I mean, what can one say? The audience loved it. The critics mostly loved it. It's a content hit. Let's see if it makes any money. And as far as the Chat GPT review here on Rotten Tomatoes, a galactic group hug that might squeeze a little too tight on the heartstring. Oh my God. The final Guardians of the Galaxy is a loving last hurrah for the MCU's most ragtag family.
Boy, I had not yet encountered truly purple prose in that synopsis there on Rotten Tomatoes, but here we are.
You know, you pictured me doing clothing optional trivia and got a little sick, and I don't blame you. But because that sort of thing doesn't bother me, I got a little sick reading that fucking synopsis there.
Yeah.
Ugh. Distasteful. All right. I don't know. Should I just read like a bunch of different ones, like not necessarily only?
Yeah, I think we don't need to go too in deep on here. I mean, it's
okay.
It's a good movie.
Well, no, I normally read the opposite of what so it's like if it's high praise, I read all the rotten ones to see like where do these people go wrong. But like I don't know. I feel like I should read like a mixed bag. What do you think, Alexis? Mixed bag?
Oh, I was hoping we could make fun of the negative ones, but sure, I think I'm outvoted on this.
No, I will attend to you, pretty girl. Tom Schoen of Sunday Times UK, rotten. With 2 villains instead of 1, an endless succession of rescues and more endings than Lord of the Rings. Hold the fuck on!
No.
Lord
of the Rings.
Wait, I don't get 2 villains. Is he talking about the Sovereign as the second villain?
About Warlock.
I think Adam Warlock and the High Evolutionary. But this has like a epilogue that's different than multiple endings.
I was gonna say, look, I was the first one to say like that third act is interminable, but it's an interminable third act, not multiple endings. You ass. Yeah. Volume 3 is the same bloated 2.5-hour Leviathan as every other Marvel movie these days.
Okay.
Oh, Tom Show needs to find a new job.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Not wrong, but a bit too nasty.
It's a fair criticism to levy at the MCU at this point, levied unfairly at this movie, despite the fact that I agree it was too long.
All right. Bob Grimm of Reno News and Review, vaunted periodical. Not as good as the Christmas special, but still pretty good.
Agreed.
Also, what? You're a paid writer. Be better than that. Let's see here. Elsie Rengifo of Entertainment Voice. The movie packs both grandeur and grit.
There's a lack of grit to this one.
Agreed. Michael Ward of Should I See It? Enjoyable but inconsistent.
I'm going to hope that the previous bit of that sentence that the ellipses is covering makes that make sense. Or it gives it the appropriate context.
Keith Garlington of Keith and the Movies.
Oh.
It's an over-processed send-off that's so focused on going out with a bang that it loses its joy, charm, and trust in us to actually feel things on our own.
Okay, hang on. Again, he's getting at the kind of constant undercutting of emotion with, and it's not just comedy. Gunn's a bit more adept at utilizing utilizing bathos than that.
All right,
but this isn't over-processed, and frankly, I don't even think it's that focused on going out with a big explosion so much as going out on something heartfelt, which is not the same thing.
Edwin Arnaudin of Asheville Movies. The first MCU film to make grown men cry and traumatize their kids. None of that's true.
No.
Have you not seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2?
Yeah, like, look, I cried at 1 because the opening bit is a small boy watching his mother die of cancer.
Okay, first of all, if you took your kids to Infinity War and watched their entire fucking cast turn to fucking kitty litter.
Oh, I so wish I could have had that experience.
Like, if you could just, I want to go back in time and just shoot kids. Well, not with a gun, but with the camera. as fucking Star-Lord turns into fucking dust and shit. Spider-Man. Oh my God. Every kid in the audience audience just slitting their wrist because Spider-Man turned into fucking, cat hair.
Yeah,
What are you
listen to
talking
the
about?
Endgame
I don't feel
podcast.
good, Mr. Stark.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here.
No.
That he has not seen other Marvel movies. Vincent Mancini of Film Drunk. Marvel's best movie in at least 5 years, and then it goes on for another awful 40 minutes.
Again, I'm willing to entertain the notion that this movie's too long. I agree with it, in fact. But that undercuts your point. Like, again, this is the best Marvel movie in the last several years by a considerable margin.
Nick Johnson of Vanyaland. It's often surprisingly effective at tugging on the viewer's heartstrings, but the application of personal investment and care to an enterprise that would, in another's hands, be soulless and generic is what Gunn did best during his time at Disney.
So we've decided to talk about look, Mark and I are we're happy to talk the business side of things here. There's a reason we don't do it during the craft review, because it's not necessarily helpful. Keeping praise on Gunn in that particular respect doesn't actually help anyone with their understanding the criticism of the movie.
Kevin Carr, guy at the movies, our friend. Less about Star-Lord's hangups and more of a character study of Rocket. This offers an intriguing diversion from the previous films, and he can see Russia from his house.
Making Rocket the emotional core of this movie was a good choice. He's always been flitting around the edges of that. I mean, he is very much, in some respects, the emotional he's one of the two emotional hearts behind Volume 2 being so darn good. Rocket's always been there, so again, I agree that making him the central focus was a nice choice.
The future Mr. Hejna, or Mrs. Hejna, who am I to judge? Doug Walker of Channel Awesome. Would you like to insult me, Alexis?
No, I think you dug your own grave with that one. Congratulations.
Ain't no grave but the sea. Feels more like an imitation of a Guardians movie rather than an actual Guardians movie.
You know, take that quote, replace the word Guardians with critic, and that pretty much sums up this review.
Yeah. Well, fuck you, Doug Walker. David Wright said it.
That's not an accurate review, and it's certainly not anything worth
I'm seriously wonder if he actually even watches the things he reviews.
Probably not.
You know, if you could get away with reviewing them without watching them, I would. A lot of the stuff that we talk about here, I would not watch if I wasn't reviewing it.
So I know I say this every show, and it's part of the gimmick. It's part of the running gags. I say blah blahs on. I find the most obscure one I can find, or the one that makes me laugh to myself, and then I go, oh, blah blahs on Rotten Tomatoes would we toil in obscurity as I clutch my pearls and
retire to the fainting couch.
Retire to the fainting couch. Yeah. I know this one. We've read her before, so I can't really do that here. But yikes, Rain Jockanen Joker, whatever the fuck your name is, of mullingmovies.com. Don't say I didn't warn you.
Just for the listeners, that is like open square bracket, capital D, close square bracket, then don't say I didn't warn you.
Like she spelled it incorrectly or something?
Yeah.
Or actually, I think that's because that's not the whole sentence. That usually that grammar style or that grammar edit is usually because they need to capitalize a letter that was not previously capitalized.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, it's like you purposely took part of the quote that isn't even. Yeah, that makes no sense.
Don't say I didn't warn you to pee before.
That makes no sense. Like that sentence needs context. But yes, I am going to blame more whoever or whatever clipped that pull quote.
Yeah,
that was terrible pull quoting.
That was terrible. And frankly, you're not in a horror movie trying to dissuade us from doing something terrible. Like, what's the matter with you?
Robert Winfree's cousin, Johnny Gaze Monic, a fanboy of the universe.
Not accurate.
I went into this film suffering superhero burnout. I'm not interested in your fucking mental health problems. And I came out of it with the most wonderful and comforting form of heartbreak. And I can only say thank you. Please do it fucking privately next time. Stop writing letters in your review.
Hang on. Your review should not be a blog post. I'm just throwing that out there.
Adam Ollinger of Adam Does Movies of YouTube. The Guardians of the Galaxy now sits next to Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and Back to the Future as one of the greatest movie trilogies of all time. Oh, get a hold of yourself, sir.
Okay, this is a very well done trilogy, and I will argue it probably belongs up there amongst some of the best trilogies. But no, you cannot compare it to the original Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, and and Back to the Future. It's like, no, those are okay. This is I would put in the top 20 best movie trilogies, maybe top 15.
Yeah,
I don't even understand this one from the vaunted periodical Boston Globe former paper. Odie Henderson, top critic. A movie is only as good as its bad guy, and I dreaded having to spend time with him.
Okay.
Well, considering that he rips sentient beings apart and puts them back together,
but he seems to be implying he's not a good bad guy, though. That's the problem.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, you're generally not supposed to want to hang out with the bad guys. They are the bad guys. You're not.
That actually sounds like something he would have said. It's like, before I went in to see this movie. That doesn't sound like it would make sense as part of the actual review.
Friend of the show, Jeffrey
Hang
Harris.
on, no.
Oh,
I need to deal with that last guy for just a second.
sir.
Oh boy.
My friend, you have so wildly, utterly, hilariously missed the point of that villain that I almost weep for you. Not all villains are meant to be deep, tragic think pieces. Not all villains are meant to be relatable. Not all villains are meant to be... they're not. Like, the beauty of villainy in a narrative context is that it can span so much, and knowing which kind of villain to apply to your story is a very important part of what's going on there. He's an icky villain. He's meant to make you feel gross. That's his point. If you don't like spending time around him, that means it's being written effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jeffrey
being
Harris.
a guy I want to have a beer with is not something I would put in a villain.
Jeffrey Harris, 401mania.com, friend of the show.
Hey, Jeff.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is the most heart-wrenching emotional adventure yet for the galaxy's biggest, most lovable misfits. James Gunn delivers a grand yet poignant send-off for the Guardians. These morons will be missed. I'm going to say this, it's going to sound like an insult. It's not. Jeff Harris could easily write for the DVD box.
You think you're going to call that the Tick Bird review?
No.
Yes.
Oh, that we already passed the Tick Bird one. This is the greatest film trilogy of all time.
No, that's just asinine.
Okay. When it comes to Jeff's take on this, again, I don't necessarily agree. This isn't the most poignant one for me.
No, sir. What he wrote. Look, I'm not trying to pick at the guy. I was really trying to move just past this. That one pinched my nipples because that was absolutely someone's fucking copy piece for the movie that works for Disney. And Jeff's better than that. And look, he may have actually felt that way. Who the fuck knows with Jeff? But that was absolutely devoid of any critical analysis and was all likes. Buy my book. So yeah, no, I'm not. And we're moving on. Kyle Smith of the Wall Street Journal, top critic. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is a blobbuster. Oh, for fuck's sake. like other recent Marvel disappointments, jogs along from one visually extravagant, strenuously jokey set piece to another without offering much in the way of either dramatic engagement or actually funny ideas.
Okay, hang on. That's really you know what? Hang on. Rather than jump on this guy, let me just make a point. We've all become so burned by Marvel recently and their quality dip that even when it's well done, as it generally is here, we're just so jaded to it that it loses its efficacy.
Yeah.
That's the end thing now. Ooh, look at me. I'm smart. I don't like Marvel movies. I'm not like the little plebs. I'm a super smart critic.
I just want to know why he's not. He's talking about there's doesn't offer much in the way of dramatic engagement. It's like, I'm sorry that you were unable to suspend your disbelief of the CGI animals that you didn't get wrapped up in them. You clearly are just an asshole.
Oh, I meant to
Future.
mention this in the craft review, but as a brief aside, is there any legitimate reason that every animal we see on the High Evolutionary ship is from Earth? You have the galaxy.
Yes. Yeah, familiarity for the crowd. Move this the fuck on.
I know, I'm just saying.
Future ex Mr. Hejna, Jeremy Johns of JeremyJohns.com. See, I'm doing it with her now, too. Everyone gets a turn, Robert. Everyone gets a turn with me.
Unfortunately, Robert, this is what happens when we mention that we pay attention to a critic outside this video.
That's what happens when you defy me. Anyway, ironically and even sadly, Guardians 3 feels more like a familiar MCU formula film rather than the unique vision that started Guardians of the Galaxy in the first place.
I really hope you enjoyed your weekend off, Jeremy, because you obviously wrote that review without actually going to see the movie.
I agree.
That does kind of reek of I can phone this one in. That said, I think one of the things we did, like, it needs to be said, Mark, you watched all 3 of these in a row.
Yep.
This one felt like it had the most studio notes.
Yep.
So that's fair to at least note about this one.
Last one, and we're going out with a fucking bang here.
I see it. I know where you're going.
Boy! We here at Radulich Broadcasting Network try hard to provide you with critical analysis, intellectual discussion, the kind that you would find 100 years ago in a parlor while drinking brandy, discussing the news of the day. And yet, Barry Hertz of the Globe and Mail, top critic, gets to be on Rotten Tomatoes while we toil in obscurity. With this beautiful, stunning and brave contribution to the literary world.
I feel like this was at least helped along its way by ChatGPT.
I fucking hope so.
I'll say this quote needs to be freaking dipped in, like, engraved in bronze and studied for future generations.
This is why I do not weep for the newspaper industry at all. I am.
You did this to yourselves.
Yeah, I am Grootly disappointed. Hang on, fuck this guy.
So, Loki.
All right, I'm done.
Nice one. Yeah, the only remotely positive thing that I could ever hope to say about that is that he perfectly predicted exactly what his boss said to him in the meeting that he called him in for right after reading.
One would hope.
David, seriously, you're on fire tonight, man.
Hang on, Mark. I don't know. This goes out to anyone who knows who can give me a clip that will fit the sentiment I'm about to express. We need something for the soundboard almost explicitly for these kinds of critics. That's just something to the effect of your parents are very disappointed in you. I don't know.
Maybe we should get like the clip of Jeb Bush running for president saying, please clap.
That might do it. But I need something for these people that just expresses the profound disappointment that we all feel in them. I don't know. Anybody out there that has a good idea, please send them to Mark. He will.
All right.
He will sift through them.
Speaking of feeling disappointing things, David, what are you plugging these days?
Ooh, I don't have much to plug right now.
Sure you do. You were on like 2 shows last week, Rock.
Oh, okay, fine. I always think of plugging in future tense, but okay.
True.
So in the past, I've been on the Mandalorian Season 3 review with everyone, and Mark and I reviewed Star Trek Picard Season 3, which was actually really good. And talked a bit about the state of Hollywood and Star Trek and entertainment and all that good stuff.
Okay.
What am
Keep going.
Yeah. Okay. In the future, I mean, I'm definitely going to be back for Dune.
I should put you in there now while we're
one of the few.
Yeah, you should.
Loosely related to something earlier. Speaking of Denis Villeneuve, one of the few directors who knows how to actually paint visually with that shadow-heavy style.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. And probably more me and Mark talking about various sci-fi things as soon as we figure out what we're doing. And Strange New World. Seasons 1 and 2.
We have Strange New World coming up in the next couple of months, both seasons, a couple of months apart. Yep, I just added you to the Dune review. So you'll see David hither and thither as we go along. Off the top of my head, I don't know what else you're doing in the near future.
Yeah, I kind of just browse the schedule and it's like, oh, that sounds interesting. And
yeah, David's my walk-on. He just sort of shows up. He's kind of the Snoop Dogg of the Radulich Broadcasting Network. He's like, he smells podcasts. He's like, yo, pass it over, and just like walks, just appears. So
I actually got half of that reference.
Terrific white boy. All right, speaking of white boys,
he is charged.
Alexis, Hejna, show us where you pissed from.
All right, as far as shows for you, I'm actually not going to be on the network a lot this month. It looks like you got me next week. We're going to be doing a TV party tonight, Muppets Mayhem. Going to have a lot of fun with that. Mm-hmm. And you've got me suffering at the end of the month when I have to review The Little Mermaid.
You say it like you're like I'm forcing you. I assumed you wanted to do it. You don't want to do it. You can tell me to go fuck myself. It's fine.
I'm
To
the
be
only
fair,
one.
Mark, when we actually record the shows, you pretty much have your introductions like, I forced you and begged you to do this.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't
For the record,
I don't passive aggressively make people do anything.
Yeah, Mark. What was? Oh, by the way, that television show we're supposed to review.
That's my birthday present,
I'm
precious.
just, hey, I'm just warning you.
Yeah.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I am no longer available from. Let me see. It's like 9 to 11 my time, so that's 11.
What did I?
To-
Okay. Did I give you a bad time for that?
I think you said Thursday noon, and I can't do it.
Oh, you're right. I did. Okay.
I'm
Then
just
I
saying,
will.
next few months that the middle of the week, my mornings to early afternoon for you are not free.
So what mornings are you available?
Well, not Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So Monday, Friday, Saturday, depending on what the UFC is doing, probably, and not Sunday.
Okay. So if I put it on a Monday afternoon, you're fine.
Probably.
Cool.
Put me there, and if something else comes up, it'll be something else. Like if Jeremy says, please fill in for Tony and cover Raw, and I go, well, if it gets me out of watching The Idol, I will suffer through the landscape of World Wrestling Entertainment at the moment.
No, fine. I put you on for Monday noon, the 31st. So I just moved it up 2 weeks. Or moved it back 2 weeks.
All right.
So
Hopefully
Monday,
it's all out by then.
Monday the no, I know it will be. It's only a 6-episode thing. So Monday the 31st at noon, and I will probably move some of this around.
I want you to appreciate for just a second that I could have waited until like the day of to spring that on you and gotten out of that piece of crap.
I would have been so mad. All right, moving on.
Be mad when we're done with it.
It's gonna be so fun. We're gonna have such a great time with it.
I am going to make it my personal mission to ruin that. I'm just warning.
Terrific. Alexis Hejna, speaking of ruining things, you were saying.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's like, so do I get to continue my plugs? Because, I do need to talk about the company that pays my bills.
Please do.
Yes. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. Like I mentioned earlier, we just wrapped up Indiana Comic-Con in Indianapolis. It was our first time being out there since we stopped doing Indie PopCon a few years ago. Had a lot of fun.
Did anyone walk up to you and be like, "Hey, I heard your Peter Pan review. That guy's a dick."
Strangely enough, no.
Okay.
On a fun side, though, my table was actually pretty close to the celebrities, and I got to see Rose McGowan, Shannon Doherty, and Holly Marie Combs.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they had a little charmed reunion going on, except
Awesome.
for Alyssa Milano, because she ain't ever going to do cons, apparently.
Yeah, you're not losing anything.
She's 100. It doesn't matter, and she's also a lunatic. Who cares?
Okay, fair enough. So our next show coming up is NakaCon. That's here in the Kansas City area, Overland Park specifically. It's a big anime show. Looking forward to it. And after that, we got a month off before we head to the Greater Austin Comic-Con in late June. We've been doing that one for years. It's a really fun event. It is very well done. I love working that. Looking forward to it. In the meantime, do have some fun news. We have just inked a consignment deal with a shop in Omaha, Nebraska. Goblin God Games is going to be putting out our wire wrap dice necklaces, our Scrabble tile pins, and our handmade video game cartridge keychains. So we're going to be dropping those off later this week. So if you live in Omaha or you live in Nebraska, just go ahead and check them out. And as always, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and our shops on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. That's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
All right. We only got one other show this week because, like I said, I'm doing trivia, and then I got other stuff going on. But we have plenty of things being aired. Today we had a re-airing of DC Meets Hanna-Barbera Volume 3. There's an Unspoken Issues for JLA Rock of Ages.
For the record, Mark trying to sell me on the crossover between, what was it, Green Lantern and Huckleberry Hound?
Yeah.
Mark trying to sell me on that by going, Robert, imagine The Wire in Detroit.
There's
trying to remember, was that the one where I did Speed meets
I think
Bear
so. Yeah.
Flash meets Speed Buggy?
Yeah.
No,
so what's-
no. You did Deathstroke and Yogi Bear.
Oh,
Then-
I
then it
love
was-
that one.
Then it was the one before that with my dad, which was also hilarious.
Your dad, it's not. I've learned it's not polite to laugh at the mentally handicapped.
Yep. Speaking of which, check out my dad on TikTok. My TikTok at Mark Radulich. Anyway, there's a Snap Material Animals Assembled recap that's airing tomorrow. We've got a Movies That Don't Suck and Some That Do review and interview with the people from That's Our Time at Panic Fest. Another Snap Material apparently unlocks live battle Avengers versus X-Men. Jesse, what are you doing?
Whatever he wants to make himself happy, Mark.
Clearly, and I don't like it. Movies That Don't Suck and Some That Do. Ghosted and Evil Dead Rise will air on the 11th of May, and then there's another Snap Material, for fuck's sake. And then in the evening, we will be, because it is May the 4th be with you and Revenge of the 5th. We are reviewing Galactic Empire Special Edition. We'll be talking some Star Wars. I'm going to talk about my trip to the Ailstorm concert with Glory Hammer. Friday, there's yet another fucking Snap Material. God damn. This weekend is Everyone Loves a Bad Guy Saturdays. We're going to look at the bad guys from The Simpsons. And then on the 14th, speaking of Ailstorm, Judas Priest, Redeemer of the Souls will be Mother's Day. Next week, I know I've been saying all this time, I'm not doing more than like 1 or 2 podcasts a week, social, yada, blah, blah, blah. But this particular week, man, I am loaded up for bear. Jason and I on Monday are going to be doing a TV party for You season 4. I will be on with my buddy John Brodigan, ye old freak boy.
Oh wow, where's you dragged him out of the?
I didn't drag shit. He fucking contacted me and big time himself onto the show. So he was like, yeah, he's like, I saw the trailer for Muppets Mayhem. Please put me on your podcast. And I'm like, let me talk to the broad who runs it. So yeah, the broad who runs it, Alexis Hejna. So we will be panel members along with Zach the Lego Maniac.
You're gonna be in for it on that one, Alexis. If you've never heard Mark and John go after it, that's an experience.
Hey, I've got access to the mute button. I know how to shut them up.
Yeah, I can also boot you off the show.
Yeah, and then you lose your host, and then you're back to hosting all the TV network shows.
Or not do them at all. I love you, Alexis. Don't want to lose you.
Love you too, Mark.
Anywho,
By the way, I believe Zach the Lego Maniac got in touch with you about Elemental.
Maybe. I'm sure I wrote it down somewhere. And then because there's no Damn You Hollywood, Robert and I are going to be doing a triple feature. We're going to catch up on some streaming movies. We're going to look at Tetris. That's on Apple Plus, Boston Strangler on Hulu, and Bruiser on Hulu, which I'm sure Robert will never forgive me for.
Well, look, Boston Strangler's not great. Tetris is overwrought and doesn't have the story for the runtime. Have you seen Bruiser? And are you speaking from like your
no,
place?
I have not watched it.
Okay,
I'm not watching it. I read the synopsis and I thought it'd be a good one to cover.
That's fair.
And then we were supposed to do it a little ways back, but Pat had, I think, a date, and then I went and did karaoke with the Jackie, so we put it off. But we're catching up noon on the 18th, the Barrera versus Morales trilogy. And then that is the week that was. All right, Robert Winfree, go ahead and do your plugs.
Alrighty, my coverage schedule has been pared back a great deal because MLW doesn't run on the same day that they used to. And now AEW seems to have murdered Dark and Dark Elevation as they are restructuring ahead of Collision becoming a thing. So, who knows? If they get something else in that same kind of time slot, I'm sure I'll cover it. But until then, I am free of AEW. I am still, however, shackled to the rock of WWE SmackDown. And because I was less than charitable, I was myself when I reviewed the SmackDown Go Home show for Backlash. Great crowd, by the way, but didn't care for the show, and that always leads to the people coming out going, "Why are you doing this?
Why don't you just quit?"
If you want my job, come and take it." But I cover SmackDown on Fridays. I cover the UFC events. There's UFC 288 this last Saturday. Decent event. Ran long. Co-main event did not need to be 5 rounds. Hopefully we all learn from this. This coming Saturday early, we have an early show for UFC on ABC4. The prelims start at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, so that'll be fun. I'll be covering that in the MMA Zone of 411mania.com if you want a full preview of that card, and yeesh. I host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast, so every week I give you a look into the wide, wacky, wonderful world of mixed martial arts. Give that a listen if you're so inclined. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find me over there.
All right, folks. Thanks for checking out our longer than usual. It's like the first time I've done one of these, and we went long, and I wasn't rushing to get off. Longer than usual review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I want to thank David for coming on. Alexis, always a pleasure. Robert Winfree, Mark Radulich signing off. Be well, be safe, and behave.